How you doing? Welcome back to the Dynasty Grind. I literally just walked through the door. I've been out all day. I have no idea what even happened in the games. Not that I would watch anyway. But this is a weekly show where we talk about Dynasty advice on a weekly basis. It usually devolves into trade conversations and also value conversations and occasionally conversations about McCall Harmon's ass. I don't know. I'll have to ask Zach about that one. I wasn't exactly listening to what he was saying. This week, we're blessed with both Zach Reed from the Dynasty Dummies, Tacit Assassin 13 on Twitter, and Dynasty Outhouse, my co-host, maybe most of the time, who is actually here this week. So pretty happy with that one. Drop any questions you have in the comments. This is a live stream, so whatever that means, we'll find a child and ask them what that means. But that's what this is. And welcome to the Dynasty Grind. My name's P.A. Howdy. My name is actually Peter Howard. My Twitter handle is @PA_Howdy. Oh my God, it finally happened. I now more identify with my Twitter handle. Anyway, with that, let's get to the show. Let us know any questions or subjects you want us to ask about in the comments, and we'll be happy to do so because, I don't know why we do, but we do enjoy it. My camera seemed zoomed in. I'm sorry, I didn't realize until I went live there. I was like, why is it so close to my face? Who won the games? What games played today? Seahawks?
Everybody lost.
Everybody lost. All fourth.
Yeah.
Wow. That's historic, and I missed it. Nice.
You're better off for having missed it. Let's just
Cool. How you doing? Zach pointed out something about McCall Hartman's ass, and also the FF briefcase was already asking questions in the chat. Who's a player that could perform well over the next 2 weeks and artificially inflate his value going into the offseason?
Funny you should mention McCall Hardman, Peter.
Because it's not the answer to this one.
No, but if he catches a touchdown, everybody's going to go crazy again. It's the artificially that I'm looking at.
It's the 2 weeks I'm looking at.
It's going to be. It's always a young running back. It's J.K. Dobbins, Akers, Henry for the first 3 years.
Ronald Jones.
But I feel people are wise to that. Running backs do well at the end of the season, and their values just meh. It doesn't.
So here I'm going to backdoor this one because the answer you mentioned Cam Akers. The answer is Dante Foreman is going to artificially inflate Cam Akers' value because of the Achilles injury. Yeah. Because people are going to point to him as, hey, he came back from an Achilles injury and took over the Derrick Henry work. Like he has been good, and
he's not dead just because he had an Achilles
right.
injury.
So we're going to point to that as well. Obviously, Cam Akers will come back and be great, and so it's like artificial by proxy. Cam Akers' value will increase.
That's cool though.
I literally haven't even been able to touch projections, so I don't have a great answer for this, but I think Amon-Ra St. Brown's already increased his dynasty value. I don't know, it's artificial, but it might get too high. Who knows? Depends what he does over the next 2 weeks. He's definitely worth trading for if you're in the playoffs, I think.
Do we think that Devin Singletary is actually going to keep value with him doing pretty well right now?
How many years do we have to do the Buffalo running back thing? Just no.
Well, it's we kept doing the Green Bay wide receiver too because of one
good
year. Oh man, Green Bay got a tight end. Yes, let's remember 2012 when Jermichael Finley did well. What year is it now?
Fair enough. I know. I think those are our answers. I'm gonna. Russ is going with Singletary, I guess.
Sure.
I
made it up as I was going along.
I get so same, absolute same. I'm going Amon-Ra and. Zach went with McCall Hardman, officially putting him on the team McCall Hardman. So now we can.
Yep, Zach
what happened to Cam Akers?
Time when Zach said.
It's recorded. It is on the internet. You can never be deleted.
That's right. And everything on the internet is true.
That is, yes. I heard that on the
just
internet.
For clarity, that's because McCall Hardman has never been likely to break out. He's never broken out. He's never gonna break out. And has continually had value because people think that things that aren't true. That's why
we need to wait until his 11th year and he turns into a running back. If that doesn't happen, then we'll say he didn't break out.
Is there a trend there, though? NFL teams maybe getting creative enough to use players at what they're good at? I'm thinking about Rondell Moore.
Deebo Samuel. I would say one person a trend.
I mean, it's really two. I mean, we've seen Cordero Patterson go off, which other teams take note when other teams have success. I'm not saying the Bears figured it out, but he finally did what we think he's physically capable of. And so other teams take note, especially in a year where Deebo Samuel's actually managed to remain healthy, which was always really the question, not whether he was the one or not. And the teams finally found a balance with him and Ayuk, so they've both been able to do it. Curtis Samuel never really worked out, but you've got Rondell Moore, this promising rookie. He was someone I was thinking about naming because he could do something over the next 2 weeks. But also, he had his first really what to me was disappointing. His overall season's going to look good, but last week was a little disappointing. He should be improving his role on that team, and it really tanked at a time we expected it to really create it. I'm not concerned about him at all, but I definitely think if he bounced back from that over the next 2 weeks, wouldn't be artificial, but it'd definitely be an increase. But I definitely think he's someone that could fit the Deebo Samuel mold. But for that, we need teams to be actively interested in doing it, and that's why I was asking. Tyler Reeves asks, I traded CMC for J.K. Dobbins, I'm guessing, and 2 early thirds in a 23 draft. I'm nervous I got really bad end on this deal. I mean, you did, but honestly, you've probably got more value.
I mean, getting out of CMC is the right answer. That's not the right way. Like, you went the right way, you just didn't get all the way there.
Yeah, the thirds aren't quite enough. Ultimately, yeah, I think you're fine because JK is gonna have value when CMC stops having value. So fine.
Yeah,
but
you'll be fine.
It was a little undersell. Yeah. But
it'll take some time for that to feel like an okay trade, but it'll get there for sure.
It'll get there. It's the tortoise of trades. It's good.
Slow and steady wins the race, baby.
I did. Zach, you did it. Backdoored the answer. Okay.
Are we back to McCall Hardman again? Like, what's going on?
There's way too much backdooring and ass in this show already. Let's just step away from this one slowly. Nicholas J, hey, welcome back.
This is a family show, fellas.
About Tanyan, it's really not. Coming off the IR next year. Should I wait for some type of hype to start? Yeah, because you're not going to be able to get anything from right now. I mean, but having said that, assuming you've got some interest, I would trade him right now if I could trade him.
Yeah. I don't think there's going to be any hype, so I don't.
Yeah,
well, I don't think it's going to matter.
And especially if Aaron Rodgers leaves Green Bay, then Tanyan's value goes to the basement floor, and so you might as well see if you can get somebody to give you something for him at this point. But in the grand scheme of things, he's a touchdown-dependent tight end.
Yeah, at this point, I'm interested in Tanyan, but I've got no reason to be interested in him because I've got no reason to give anything for him. He's if he drops to the waiver wire, I'm going to stash him kind of a candidate, and he probably won't get that far. But I mean, I don't think you're going to get a trade. Ultimately, is the answer. If you do, then that's the question: what is this trade good enough? Jesse Riddle, trying to decide if I believe that's your name, Jesse. Let's go with yes. I traded Eckler in a second for JK in a first. Okay, yeah, that seems like a good trade to me.
Yeah, if you're not competing this year, why not, man? That's a good move. Get JK, get a first, and your brother Tom Riddle was a dick.
Hey, Tom was fine. It's only when that other guy took over the.
No.
Took over the name.
He was always a bit of a dick in the first place. It just went a little overboard.
You know, being a bit of a dick myself, I PPR Superflex. I don't think that matters to me overly. I mean, I get why PPR and Eckler, you might think it matters, but
Superflex first, I think, makes a bigger.
That's true.
difference.
Actually, that's a good point. No matter where it falls in that first round,
The first is better.
More value pick. Yep.
Yeah.
Should you even worry about the 4th and 5th round picks as much? No,
or the third, honestly, or the second.
I'm consistently surprised anyone lists them. 4th,
okay,
5th, I'm surprised. I like a lot of plays in those rounds, but I also can have them later when people drop on the waiver wire.
So I created the Trade Addicts Leagues 4-ish years ago.
Yes, you did.
And there are 5 rounds in our rookie drafts, and for the life of me, I don't know what the hell I was thinking when I did it. Why did I put 5ths? Like, 4ths are bad enough. But the thing is, like, during the draft, us being as degenerate as we are, there's names in the 4th you feel happy drafting. When you get to the 5th, it's just like,
who?
Why?
Does anyone want this pick?
What?
Uh,
So, but like 4ths, I get it. Like they have no value. Don't get me wrong. It's still just fun. And it's names. It's names you like. It's names that will most likely never do anything. But I still like
I think
it.
it's a little more interesting if you're able to draft players, anyone off the waiver wire. Because then there's some deeper prospects you might want first dibs on, like an early waiver claim. But that's essentially what they are. The early waiver claims are mostly rookie only, and they're mostly if you see if you see a third in a trade, sorry, guy who traded for 2/3, it's mostly kind of you're just trying to pad the trade at that point.
I like thirds. I mean, thirds can work
fine,
every once in a while.
I want to give my stock answer though. Like, I'm not worried about those picks in trades.
You're right.
But you can find valuable players occasionally in those rounds in the draft. So, like, look, James Robinson, Darnell Mooney, Hunter Renfrow are 3 guys I got in either the 4th or 5th round of Dynasty rookie drafts. But they're guys that I targeted in those drafts and traded back in to get those picks for nothing. And during the regular season or during trading, whenever people are adding those, other people value those picks way more than I do. And so it's great that they're there because other people think they're worth something.
What's a good buy low QB for the offseason? Asked Pat.
Coughlin?
Just Pat. He
Just
likes
Pat?
Pat. I asked him. He prefers just to be referred to as Pat.
Oh, my bad, Pat. Didn't mean to put you out there like that.
It's a good question. What kind of player are you? This, especially when buying QBs, I think it's really just about how you construct teams. Because if you want a player that's going to outperform where their ADP is right now, even in Dynasty, well, let me tell you who the top QBs are this year. Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, and Matthew Stafford. Which ones do you think were good buy lows this offseason? Yeah, it's the old guys.
Yeah.
And not the Ben Roethlisberger types. There's a miss right there. But it's probably the older players. But when we're talking about Dynasty, that's probably not who you are thinking of. And Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady are pretty good targets for a team that's structured that way to take the value hit. And they're probably going to outperform expectation next year as well because they're old and this is Dynasty. If you're asking who's my favorite young QB, it's probably still Tua. Or actually increasingly Jalen Hurts, because I think the hate is legitimately going to mean that he outperforms draft expectation as well. I mean,
if he stays the starter in Philadelphia, there's going to be a lot of people that got to steal on him because he's being traded like there's a good chance he's not starting.
Right.
What about Trevor Lawrence?
I mean, you can say Trevor Lawrence is a good one. I was going to say Joe Burrow as well, but I don't think either are going to be held down in ADP or at least in trade value. Like people know
Trevor will though, because even if he drops
maybe
Trevor, the 3rd round of startups, going from the number 7 pick to the 3rd round is a decent value drop. It's still expensive. Don't get me wrong, but it's still a decent value drop.
But he'll be one that's a value in startups, but not necessarily a value to trade for. Because people get this hang up of I spent the 101 on him, so I'm not going to trade him.
I am 1000% one of those people.
Yeah, and like most people are.
I think after being outperformed by players in his draft, like I know there's a little buyer's remorse. It depends who'd made the pick.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but like even with buyer's remorse, like you still spent the 101. So anytime, like if you're getting less than that, you're at a loss on a guy after 1 year, which is a bitter pill to swallow.
Yeah, it's a little rough.
That's faulty reasoning, but okay, yeah, I can see it happening.
I mean, I'm not saying
I agree.
Faulty
no,
reasoning. I'm just saying that
the
psychology of this is where I like that part of things. So.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool.
Carson Wentz, I'm still into him.
He's okay.
I didn't laugh.
Yes, you did. I heard it. I felt
it. Well-managed team. I don't hate it. I just don't think he's gonna.
I don't think he's magically going to be like a top 5 quarterback or anything.
Yeah, exactly. That's
no, definitely not at all. But I still think he is right now scoring.
Yeah, no, he's been good this year. He has.
But I mean, he's still kind of low, like points per game. He's QB 23.
Yeah.
But he's in
He'll
a big
be-
chunk of like 12 quarterbacks that are scoring 18 points a game. Like the difference between him at 23 and Jameis Winston is at 14 is 0.7.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think if
No,
you can
he'll-
get Carson Wentz for QB 24, which is probably where he's kind of around, like he could easily turn into QB like 12 to 15.
Yeah, he's one of those ones that'll be a value, but it won't feel exciting. You'll be like, yeah, I guess that's good. On the other hand, I could have had Taylor Heineke or something. But yeah, I think that's worth pointing out. I'm waiting for the offseason to get some trades off. Only had one team mention him back in a trade where I get Komet back. Yeah, I'd do that. Yep. I'd trade Komet for Tonyan, just dynasty value-wise.
Yeah, I
Seems
guess
solid.
people still like Komet.
Yep. I'm going to keep liking him too. Jesse Riddle again. Last my ass off, real name.
Good.
And like I said, I'm gonna let it ride, but don't push it. Like I believe you. It's kind of. And Nicholas J. Okay, I think we've done the commit thing. My first year, I'm third to last with 2 first round picks right now. Third and a 7th pick in the first. That's like a 7th pick. We're debating whether you should have 4th or 7th. That's saying the 7th pick in the
7th.
first
Yeah,
round.
3rd and 7th pick overall. Yeah,
I'm an idiot. Confirmed. 3rd pick in the 2nd. Wondered what a 3rd is really worth.
Like a 3rd round pick is worth? Is that what he's asking?
I think so.
Any random dart throw, like it's
worth a high priority waiver claim.
Yeah,
That's the way I think of it.
Pretty much, right? Like, I mean, don't like.
I mean, I haven't
thing
dug
is-
into this class yet, but I'm getting told it's thick with deepness. So there's probably a lot of 3rd round picks you want this year. To be fair, I don't know. Try to
I
combine.
don't
fun
think
words.
so, but
You're gonna
Okay,
find
fine.
names you like in the 3rd, and normally they're gonna be names you like just because Dynasty people talk about them because we have nothing better to do. So we talk about those deeper wide receivers that we like a lot.
Yeah, it's where you end up with Tutu Atwell or Tyler Johnson. I did that a lot.
I mean, but then also every
to be
once in
fair,
a
it's where you can
while-
alwast find Amon-Ra St. Brown. He was someone. who did
Amon-Ra,
that, so.
Jordan Howard, I got in the 3rd.
Josh Palmer.
Yeah. Kendrick Bourne, probably. Yeah.
No, he was already on my roster by then.
Zach Pascal. Yeah.
Yep. Already on my roster. No, that's a waiver claim. I have AJ Brown, Ridley, and Pittman with 103. More likely. Sorry, can someone else read this? I have
AJ Brown,
not
Ridley,
Tyler.
and Pittman.
I am having
With the
trouble.
103 more than likely being Burks, what do I do with Ridley? Okay. Your draft has absolutely nothing to do with what you have on your team.
right.
I'm guessing you're talking one quarterback, by the way. But honestly, there's running backs you should be taking in front of Burks because
this
that's
is a
what
question we get a lot. It's like, does position matter when evaluating who to take with a pick? And the answer is no. Just take the player you think is the most likely to score the most fantasy points.
draft for value,
Yeah.
trade for need.
There
If
is
anything,
a slight asterisk on
trade back if you
quarterback
can.
in Superflex,
Yes.
like Russ was saying. But even then, it's like, man, we were just talking about Lawrence. It gets rough. So, no,
But the-
ultimately don't take.
What to do with Ridley though? That's the question. And man, yeah,
Cry.
Sell him right now. He's still holding out. Like at least 30% of the people I see asking about Ridley still seem to think like he's just on IR or he's just coming back. Like, when will he come back? Like, that's not the question. The question is if. He made that real clear months ago. The fact that people still hold him on his roster when there's a lot of the community that are still like, well, when's he coming back? Means that you're missing a really important window. I love Ridley. When he comes back, I'll overpay to get him back on my team. If he comes back, he made it real clear. To me, he did not know. This was not an IR.
You talked to Calvin Ridley?
Injury in his statement that we all got to read. Like, this is maybe he's better off being done with football. He honestly doesn't know. And for me, that's better put considering it a retirement for now, at least,
Yeah.
than anything else. I mean, I think he probably comes back at some point, but it's long past this window where you can still kind of get. Someone was asking in our chat about Deebo Samuel. Could I add something to get? Should I trade Deebo for Ridley plus something? I'm like, no, the other way.
Yeah.
If someone like that guy's a serious fantasy, like he knows his stuff, really considering Ridley plus something for Deebo, like I'm doing the opposite trade if I've got Ridley right now. I'm sending those out. Because by this offseason, everyone's going to be like, oh, wait, there aren't even any games. He can't come back anytime soon. And the value will tank.
And that's like, if I have a roster where I don't have Ridley, and I know this is not how Tyler's got Ridley on his roster, but if I have a roster where I don't have Ridley, Ridley does not exist. Like I'm not trying to trade for him. I'm not like I am hoping that he gets himself in a place where everything is okay for
love to
Calvin
see that
Ridley.
guy play again.
But
if
yeah,
it's not right for him, it's not right.
But that's not so. If you have Ridley and can get interest in somebody trading for him, and like what you said, if you can get decent value, I would much rather get out from underneath the risk of Calvin Ridley not ever getting to a place where he is comfortable playing again.
Yeah, I mean that's the sad kind of truth,
it
right?
sucks. It does.
It sucks for us. Hopefully, it's better for him, to be fair, and that's great. I mean, I would I not do anything, but I'd love to see that guy playing football again. But the thing is, if he says, "All right, I'm ready to come back," the value's not even going to shoot up. It's going to be a very tepid. Is he? And so
I mean, his
don't
value
even see
will
the
never
reason to buy low.
go back up all the way.
It's better to pay whatever someone wants for that risk because they'll believe in the player's talent at the time. Like, while there's still a question around it, I would capitalize on. But that's not your question, Tyler. And the answer is no. Like, don't trade for Ridley right now for the opposite reasons. Joe, IDP leagues offer more value later in the draft. That's fair, actually. If you've got more positions playing, there's going to be more value in having deeper picks. That's true. I've tried playing IDP a few times. I'm already burnt out just trying to learn as much as I can about the 4 positions. You added more in, and I was just like, no. I'm going to go take a sabbatical. I got to spend 10 years learning any of this. And also, the more you learn about IDP, as you well know, Joe, that it's not nearly as clean cut. Just who's starting or who's getting snaps or who's it's. I have no idea how to figure.
Not only that, but like there's no uniform score. Like people have not decided on this is how we're going to score IDP. It's not like, okay, I'm playing in PPR or I'm playing in Superflex, where Superflex means you've got another flex position that you can start a quarterback, running back, tight end, or wide receiver. Points per reception, you get a point per reception. IDP, it's okay, what are we scoring? What's it worth? And so that to me is the big drawback in terms of mainstreaming IDP, aside from the fact that I don't want to learn the other 11 guys on the field. Yeah. I don't like the 4 guys who matter to the offense, I'll learn, but the other
And also the fact that we know like 6 wide receivers deep and 4 running backs deep on a lot of teams is already pretty sick. Yeah, we don't need to do that at quarterback.
Yeah, I've even heard the idea of like drafting backfields instead of running backs, and it never took off for similar reasons. It's like we just like to fan, and where those players aren't featured, it's hard to fan on them. Yeah. It's wrong in the same way that we should know much more about offensive linemen. They're so essential to the game, and they're kind of underpaid because they're not a drawer. They can't get fame around themselves. And it's woefully unfair, but I'm literally just a fantasy player. Yeah. So, but yeah, I would say Tom Kislingberry is the only reason that saved my ass in a few IDP leagues that I tried and consistently failed, but tried. He's the only reason I knew anything at all.
During the season, the Read and React podcast on the DLF family of podcasts.
The true fantasy grinders, the degenerates, are the IDP guys. It's just like I don't get fantasy points for being the most grindery. I just say I am a grinder, and people accept it, so I'm cool. But you're right; it's an awesome format, and people should try it out because maybe you've got a bigger brain than me, and you can keep more stuff in it. No Superflex. It's a good bet that he can. Jesse Riddle. I hate it, but I'd like to say 25% that Ridley never plays again. I'd feel better if they officially announced he was sitting out the rest of the year in hopes. That's the thing. He literally said, I am stepping away. There's a significant, there's 25% maybe that are like, will he come back this? Like, there's literally 3 games? No.
It's not, it's definitely not
it
this
was
year.
pretty certain he wasn't playing this year when he said that. And the sheer fandom, and I share and appreciate that made us think, well, we'll be back in 5 weeks, maybe. Is just, speaks to how much we love these players in this game. Because, I probably wouldn't have done that if it was just something he was going to plan to come back for this year. And I'm not, a lot of us kind of felt this way, Jesse. And that's why I'm saying this value is kind of inflated right now. Even when he comes back, I don't really think there's going to be a large inflation. It's because there's going to be a lot of it. If he comes back, there's going to be a lot of uncertainty around it.
Yes.
But, yeah. Crickets. Correct. Ryan, need a running back due to Fournette being out. Eckler is questionable. Who would you target with Jerry Jeudy or the 105? That's a high price to pay for a running back, you're saying, just right now. So I'm going to aim for a lot more than a running back for just right now. And so a player, who's a running back that has value that's still active? It's Jonathan Taylor, right? He's still active. Has he got COVID?
But Jerry Jeudy, would you, if we found out that Elijah Mitchell was healthy and playing, would you send Jerry Jeudy for Elijah Mitchell?
I'm all about winning, but I would need a lot more back with Elijah Mitchell, and I don't think anyone takes that right now. If they're willing to trade a running back, they're not willing to trade first round picks because they're probably out. So
Jerry Jeudy or the 105, not and the
right.
105.
Yeah, he's offering those to get a running back.
So if I feel like if you sent Jerry Jeudy to a non-competing team who had Elijah Mitchell, I think that could get done. And honestly, I don't feel bad about it. I love Jerry Jeudy, but I still think Elijah Mitchell will be the running back in San Francisco next year.
They're going to have to add at least a first onto that, though. And do you think a team that's not in it is going to have my first for Jerry Jeudy?
No.
Right now?
No.
So I don't think they do it.
No, just Jerry Jeudy for Elijah Mitchell, straight up. Those two players.
I thought I was about winning. No.
Really? You think that's that far off?
Elijah Mitchell literally has 0 value in 3 weeks, and Jerry Jeudy is still worth at least 2 first.
I think he does.
Yeah,
I think he still plays next season. I think he's still their running back.
I'm not talking about the points, though. I'm talking about the value. Do you really
No, I think so.
Maybe
I'm going to sit the fence on this one because I think that more people think like Russ than think like you, Peter, right now.
Okay,
I think people are projecting Elijah Mitchell to be the next running back in San Francisco. And so even right now, I think his value is above Jerry Jeudy, which is crazy to me. But I do. I'm sitting here with the December DLF and looking at Elijah Mitchell being really high.
Maybe people do already have him higher than I thought they would, in which case this won't work. But that's just the first name that came to mind. Hey, go get Devin Singletary, fellas.
He's at running back 13 right now.
Wow,
in DLF.
Never mind.
Which is mind-blowing to me because
he's
been fine, but he's still an undrafted free agent running back.
And they literally have to bring in another running back in the offseason.
They're going to, and he's also been replaced admirably by Jeff Wilson last week. Like it's not like this is Elijah Mitchell's backfield, period.
Shanahan's running back consistently is whichever one is healthy.
It's whoever's, And
if Elijah Mitchell goes down, he's not going to be, as has happened this year.
But
I want
it to be
Mitchell because I think he's good. He's undrafted, so I freaking love him. But you all are making it tough to love undrafted free agents. If you're like, why don't you do that with wide receivers? Why does it take me 2 years to convince you Adam Thielen's any good? But running backs are like, oh yeah, they're already a top 5 running back. Like this seems
running back is just volume.
But Russ, you just said when Mitchell comes back, it's Mitchell's backfield. Are you saying like going forward too?
No.
Matt Breida, Raheem Mostert, this has been it was Matt Breida's backfield, and then all of a sudden it wasn't, and then it was Raheem Mostert's backfield, and then all of a sudden it wasn't, and now it's Elijah Mitchell's backfield, and it
was always long-term injuries that kicked everyone out.
I mean,
you know, when Mostert was healthy, it was Mostert's backfield until Jeff Wilson became healthy, and then he took some of the goal line usage. But it does seem to be the case where it's usually at least a 60-40 split. Like, I don't think anyone's a workhorse back in San Francisco.
Could we do something?
Here's the thing, though. We don't know really who's available in Ryan's league. I mean, those players might be on competitive teams right now. So I would say that what we're saying essentially, and what Russ's point is, he's a little high for me, but Russ is very good at this, so he could be well be right. But is target those running backs who are young, but maybe have some questionable value because of their draft capital or their recency, or maybe even their age, for Jerry Jeudy. I think that's a solid idea.
What about the guys who are like a little bit undervalued, at least in my eyes? So like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, James Robinson.
Low.
James Robinson, yes. CEH.
I was going to say James Robinson.
Well, but again, you're going to get 2 weeks out of Helaire where he should be, enough to be a running back for your playoffs. And
but
then
I'd rather have James Robinson, who I think will
James
be a
Robinson would be a better one to target.
And certainly, but I'm just like spitballing names at this. David Montgomery's another one. Like the running backs that are like that tier down in the dynasty community's eyes, but are still going to perform and still have value enough that if you want to trade them next year, you can.
Yeah, I would go to the non-playoff teams, make a list of the running backs that you think kind of fit this bill, or just the running backs they have, and kind of order them in a list. And send Jerry Jeudy for them and add as the value gets too different. Add a second, add a first, depending on which one it is. Then just looking at, because I haven't done my own projections, we're pulling up 4-for-4 projections for this week 16. A name that sticks out to me right now that might fit this mold well, be undervalued, but still have a lot of value, maybe questionable that way, and definitely is projected currently to be a difference-making running back, top 5, is Nashee Harris. I think he's interesting. If you've got a Jerry Jeudy, people know Nashee Harris is good and high drafted, but there's a nasty taste around the fact it's all volume and low efficiency.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Nashee Harris is probably the running back 2 now. So you're going to have to pay more than Jerry Jeudy and the 105 to go get Najee right now.
I got him for like Jalen Reagor and a first in a DLF league, and that was weeks ago. Do you not think a non-playoff team, if Najee Harris is in it, might be like, I'll take the security of a wide receiver?
Not that at all.
I think
don't get me wrong. That's
maybe we're in a different space where the value is, but I think Najee Harris might be undervalued for that reason.
If you're in a league with a lot of people who listen to analytics, that might happen, because it's been a lot of the guys that I really respect that follow the numbers that have been bashing Harris because of exactly what you said. He's not efficient, and he's not getting what's blocked, and is whatever it is, rushing yards over expected, or whatever the acronym is. That like he's not doing as well. And I
think honestly, that's fair. There's significant questions, but I just a little more certain, like Russ was saying, like he's going to be a top 5 dynasty running back just for lack of options, and so the value is there despite these questions.
Yeah,
but then again, if you feel that way about Elijah Mitchell, he could be easily, like Russ said, at the top of the list. But that's the process I would run through, Brian, ultimately, and see who you're comfortable with. We throw out a few names that we check to see if they were available and occurred to us, but ultimately, it really depends on who's on the rosters that would be up for that kind of trade. Nathan Larson, I have the 101 and 102 in Superflex. I have Murray, Trey Lance, and my main QBs are his main QBs this year. Who should I target? I have no idea who the rookies are, but you're drafting quarterbacks. Or you're trading those
or
picks.
Trading, yeah.
And who are you targeting? Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, and Jamar Chase. Those will be my top 3 targets, just in general. And with 101 and 102, you should probably be able to get them somehow. Anyone else got a different target list?
I mean, if I'm trading the 101 and 102, I don't think you're getting any of those wide receivers for the 101 and 102.
I think it makes it possible, especially in a super flex.
Yeah, I don't get me wrong. I'm just going to stick with Jerry Jeudy because his name's been around. I would add Jerry Jeudy to the 101 and 102 to go get Chase or
No,
Jefferson.
yeah, I would be okay adding as well. I think I would be interested because they're such high picks. You know,
or if you wanted to just take a step further back and not throw it all into one player, go to what, like third, fourth round ADP and start looking at those wide receivers in that area. Like my brain is blank at the moment and I don't have the ADP up, but like that's what you should be able to get for the 101 and 102 in the rookie draft is around that fourth round ADP. So if you're competing, like if your team is good and you just happen to have these picks, like go get like Stephon Diggs and Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill, because after the season, you'll absolutely be able to get them for those picks because, oh no, they're 28. I'm doing sarcastic figures.
No, yeah, Team Old Guy would be the other half of my list. Yeah, definitely.
But like
I just want to say
T.
it
Higgins
because,
plus.
yeah, definitely. That's a good name on the list too. He's on my now elite target list.
I love that guy
because everyone keeps saying it, so I'm assuming someone out there doesn't like T. Higgins, even though I can't find anyone that doesn't like T. Higgins. Apparently, everyone's telling you to go buy T. Higgins off everyone that hates T. Higgins, even though no one admits to not liking T. Higgins. But sure, I put him on the list. I just want to say, I feel it's the type of thing where it could really come back to haunt me, but like I'm really still into trading Trey Lance. I don't
trading him away.
Yeah, he's got Trey Lance. I would trade that before if I could get first round value. Trey Lance, quarterback, super flex. Like I kind of like that idea.
At this point,
that's
it's pretty much equal to one of those picks. It's whoever you feel comfortable with.
Yeah, that's fair. But I mean, yeah, I'm into trading Trey Lance. I don't know. We just seem to put a pin in a very large narrative that we constructed, and that means he's good. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know how to evaluate quarterbacks. They seem to come out the blue, so maybe he is. But I know the main reason we think like he's the next top 5 quarterback just as soon as he gets his start are things we've said, and we've built this potential around him, and that's it. And I'm like,
well, I mean, there's
we're not even in the room.
Backing to it, like
not a lot in terms of what he's done in college. He was decent at a lower conference, but he wasn't world beating at a different conference. It was mostly built around, but Shanahan wants this guy and he can run. And that's stuff we're saying, if you know what I mean.
But
maybe.
I guess that is a majority of it. But I mean, it actually makes the decision making a little easier. The fact that we haven't seen Trey Lance play, because you can literally just put him in the chunk with these quarterbacks, especially if you wait till landing spots. Do you like this guy on that team, that guy on that team, or Lance on the Niners? We haven't seen any of them do anything on their teams.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if you could switch him out for Lawrence, even at least we've got to see him play in the NFL, and he was pretty decent on a terrible team. I don't know about it. But
yeah, I've convinced myself I like Lance, so I would.
Okay, fair enough. We are just mutually exclusive this week. I kind of love it. B, love that name. Gonna try to trade off Zeke in the offseason. I'm assuming your trade deadline's gone. That's why he can't do it now. Otherwise, he should really do it now. What should I expect his value to be in return? Not much.
If you can get a first, you're lucky.
Yeah. This is why we're saying we're okay with trading some of those. Eckler right now, there's currently still got that value. It's kind of always trade running back season, and it's because the value drops off so quick. He's almost at a point where you'd almost want to keep him and trade him. But if you can get a first, that's what you gun him for. Zach, you've got more.
Yeah, well, no, I think that sometimes we get so caught up in the fact that we're playing in leagues with a bunch of absolute degenerates. So in my home league, and granted this was before the playoffs, but I traded Ezekiel Elliott and Darnell Mooney for Derrick Henry in a first.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and so like that sort of thing can happen, especially when you're not playing in a league with 11 other guys that have DLF after their name. Like that's so.
No, that's fair, but that opens up the field up too far. If we're like, oh yeah, just go trade for Justin Jefferson then.
Well, no, but
I mean,
But what I'm saying is like there is a bigger range than Ezekiel Elliott has no value, because in a lot of leagues, especially with the name value of Ezekiel Elliott, especially the fact that he's been a top 12 again this year running back, even though he's been bad,
He's just one of the few healthy ones.
Yeah, but
The ones that
you'll
played every
be
game.
able to trade him. It would have been nice to trade him headed into the playoffs. So trade him to a team that is making a playoff run and get more value for that. I think the offseason trade is going to be a little bit tougher, but to say that he has no value, I think is probably not.
Well, it's not. They're probably not going to draft a running back, so that's not going to spook anyone. There will be the where's Tony Pollard's going to take over crowd, and the thing is, I truly think that the devaluation, especially someone like Zeke Elliott, is going to go too far.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely with you in that way. I would say I would almost rather just keep the points. That's why I'd say don't trade him away for less than a first, because I mean he's a good. No. Running back performances, describing them just like Nashee Harris. I don't know how people galaxy brain their way around to thinking that way, but
he's going to get a lot of carries.
Yeah, and he still can do that. If we're already banking on or thinking the team's not going to draft a running back to really scare us in value, although a third-round pick can always go off. I mean, I see your point. It's always worth exploring options, but I don't know what options to give him to go look for if I'm not considering what I can.
ADP,
you know what I mean?
December ADP, Zeke Elliott is 31st overall, running back 14. He is sandwiched in between Jalen Waddle and T. Higgins.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's
if you can get either of them. Okay, hold on. Let's talk about all these players. Let's go up to number 25, Elijah Mitchell, DJ Moore, Terry McLaurin, Deontay Johnson, Jalen Waddle. Then there's Zeke Elliott. T. Higgins, Derrick Henry, Travis Kelce, Devonta Smith, Keenan Allen, CEH. I think once Devonta Smith and anyone else above that I read, I would do 1-for-1 for Zeke Elliott right now. Once you hit the Keenan Allen, CEH, I would want a little on top, but I would still make that trade.
Yeah, I would trade him for wide receivers of similar value. I think that's a fair.
Like if you can get Waddle, Higgins, Deontay Johnson.
Just I would thank something and do nice deeds for people all day if I got Jalen Waddle. Joe, again, I agree that ADP doesn't have the generic default, and that's fair. Most of us are basic bitches, Joe. That's the problem.
It's really very true. I am.
Justin Mitchell out this week officially. Okay, so not Mitchell.
Jeff Wilson Jr. coming through for my teams again.
I was gonna ask you where you think he'd finish, but and I was like, you're just gonna say you don't do projections.
I don't do projections.
But it's probably gonna be ranked pretty close to the top 12 would be my guess because he's healthy in San Francisco and he's the guy this week. The thing about mental health is Ridley doesn't want a timetable because that would be exactly. And I think we should approach it the same way, not just to be fair to the player, although I think it is fair to the player that we admire and fan. Like he needs the time. Let's just do him this small solid. But also, I honestly feel like the way we're going to treat his value is fairly predictable. What hasn't been predictable is that we've all, like literally not all, but there seems to have been a significant contingent that were like this year, maybe early next year. It's like I don't think that's a starting point. Justin, trade for Rojo getting the last 3 starts. Rojo's a good one, but I'm not giving Jared Judy for Rojo.
Well, here, get it.
No, it's second or last. Yeah,
second or last.
I would throw a late second for Rojo. Justin hope that he gets me some points at the end.
Yeah,
I think that's a solid idea.
Oh, this is such a sad question.
Thoughts on 2023 second time me for DeAndre Hopkins?
If you're getting DeAndre Hopkins, yes.
Yeah, it's Hopkins.
I love De'Ami Brown. I love the idea of De'Ami Brown.
Me too.
It seems like he won't be a thing, but I still want to believe, and I still will believe. Oh my God, Hopkins is still worth more. I don't care that he was hurt. I don't care that he's 30. I don't care that he wasn't getting the targets he was the year before. He's DeAndre frickin' Hopkins. He's really good at football. On a really good at football.
There is some sign that he was not quite DeAndre Hopkins this year, and I still don't give a crap.
Yep.
Like, I mean, I don't give a crap. There is no
He can
real
still
way
be a
of
super solid wide
predicting
receiver,
that
too.
cliff. The cliff's coming for all of us. I'm already well over the cliff, to be clear.
I'm waving
And I
high
did
from
it
the
at a
bottom.
much younger age than DeAndre Hopkins. But there's no, like, this could be his worst year ever, and he'll have a great year next year. This is Andre Johnson versus Larry Fitzgerald. Larry Fitzgerald continually had better seasons after having some of his worst towards a later age. And Andre Johnson had one of his best efficiency seasons before he went to the Colts and just like did nothing else after that. And there's no real way of knowing. What we do know is DeAndre Hopkins has been really freaking good at football. So that's the side I would choose. Yeah. The second is probably the most valuable thing in that trade. No, God, Dynasty players are nuts, and it's great.
Yeah.
Team old guy is just like 100%. Go for it. For this upcoming week, I really should have done my work before this podcast. For this upcoming week, would you start Rojo over guys like Connor Hunt, Pittman Hunt? Yeah, I think Rojo is going to be projected above most of those guys.
Well,
just eyeballing it. There's a chance Pittman is a top 24 wide receiver, which would make it more of a question.
Except when he catches one ball for 7 yards and makes me lose a couple of games.
Yeah. So it's probably Rojo.
And with Connor missed practice today.
Yeah, it's Wednesday, whatever.
Yeah, but he was a DNP Tuesday, even though they didn't practice. Is out with a heel again today, and that's something to monitor.
Kareem Hunt's coming back though. Huh. He was injured recently, right? Or hasn't been playing lately. It was just Nick Chubb last week, right? Right? He says looking for confirmation he hasn't entirely lost touch with football. He's not expected to play this week. Kareem Hunt's not expected to play.
Kareem Hunt is, I think, done for the year.
So you may be down to Rojo and Pittman.
And I think the answer is going to be Rojo.
Rojo, yeah. Gross.
Spock for
how do you feel, Zach?
Look at me.
Did you see my tweet that was Rojo season is a holiday made up by Hallmark to sell more cards, and that's how I feel about Ronald Jones. But he's going to be viable the next 2 weeks.
Is Hunter long a good dynasty stash for 2022? And good, relatively, because I don't know many people would know who you're talking about.
You're going to want to push that out probably further because tight ends take a while.
Especially ones, he looks like he's more typical. But yeah, I like him. I think he's got potential. I think this year hasn't been positive, but for a tight end, like Zach says, it's almost impossible for it to be negative at the same time. Good depends on your bench size and who's on the waiver wire. But he will rest on a few of my dynasty benches, and I'll be quite happy to have him there.
Mm-hmm.
Really truth, a happy early holiday, boys. That's true. It's Christmas soon. Should buy some presents or something.
It's not about the presents. The Grinch taught me that.
I literally forgot it was Christmas for at least a week. Someone reminded me late last week. I was like, shit, did I buy any Christmas? I didn't know for a second. In a 12-team contender Superflex team, would you keep Swift or get the wide receiver one? Maybe plus value this offseason. Just got KO'd off playoffs, losing Godwin. Team's pretty set. I mean, yeah, just dynasty process-wise, yeah.
Would you keep Swift or get the wide receiver one, maybe plus?
Didn't name him. I don't know.
Like the rookie wide receiver one, or are we talking like Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson?
That's what I took it to mean.
Oh, I mean, I'm me. I would take a wide receiver plus just because I love wide receivers.
I don't think you get a plus, though, right? But anyway,
yes,
if it's a rookie 101 you're talking about, then no.
Hang on to Swift, yeah.
Yeah,
but like
no chance.
Man, if I could get like Justin Jefferson and like any startable player for Swift, I would do that right now.
If I could get Justin Jefferson,
take a moment to think about that.
Full stop for Swift.
Swift will be drafted above him in every single startup.
And that's fine. I will take Justin Jefferson
Me too,
every
1000%.
single time, twice on Sunday. And I will do the little dance.
That's one of the things where the draft is going to disagree with the trade.
Oh my, never mind. Justin Jefferson. Okay, hold on. I have DLF ADP up. Jonathan Taylor, Justin Jefferson, Najee Harris, Jamar Chase, DeAndre Swift. I didn't see that coming.
1.02.
No, I know Swift's going to be a top 5 running back. He's under the age of 24 and good. That's the prerequisite, like you were saying with Nashee Harris, but probably still take the wide receiver.
Yeah. All right. So, I mean, look, if I could get any of those wide receivers straight up, I would do it.
Right. But if he's talking about like the wide receiver one, like rookie wide receiver one, like if we're looking
would have
at
to be a hell
Burks
of a
or like,
close.
Yeah.
It's one of the annoying things, like Dynasty wide receiver, rookie wide receiver one, like you would have been better off to literally never draft them. If you were playing Dynasty over the last 5 years, always trade the rookie wide receiver one, and you would only miss out on Murray Cooper and Jamar Chase this year. We got that one right.
CeeDee Lamb.
I don't think he was the one.
Yeah, he was. CeeDee Lamb was the one. A lot of people had Judy as the 2. A lot of people had Jalen Reagor as the 3. A lot of people were screaming from the back that Justin Jefferson was great.
No one was doing that, Zach.
Yeah, that's the thing, though. That might be where the numbers come in
Did they
from.
write
Because
songs?
Justin Jefferson was correct, and sorry, CeeDee Lamb was second. Why are these cheese, caramel, and butter 3-way holiday popkin tins so damn addicting?
I don't know, but I want
because
the
they put a lot of sugar in them because they want you to buy them again.
I love cheese in general.
Thanks for letting us know.
I never got behind the cheese on the popcorn. Like I would take down the caramel and the butter, but someone else could eat the cheese ones.
No, yeah, I get it. I like the cheese. Ultimately, the answer is the same reason all of our food is good. It's because they put an awful lot of sugar in it. I'm putting sugar in a cup and drinking it while complaining about all the sugar in my food. I'm out of coffee. Well, I finished my coffee, and so now I'm going to my back.
No, that's terrible.
Soft drink.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I got more upstairs. It's cool. DeAndre Hopkins plus a first for Akers.
No,
I would not do that.
Why?
Just because there is the potential that Akers doesn't come back and be Cam Akers like that. Yeah, that's fully within the range of possibilities, especially with an Achilles
take away the
injury.
first. I'd probably give up Hopkins for that risk, but not end the first. I wouldn't even give up the first, but that's also just
me. No, I'm pretty well in lockstep with that.
No, this is a weird one because I know the Cam Akers hive quite intimately because I spent most of the offseason arguing with them for Darrell Henderson still having value. And man, they are vicious. I think they're gonna keep that value pretty high. I think it might be an even trade. I don't know which side I like. Probably the first because I like Akers a lot, but I always thought the ceiling was a little exaggerated. Like Gibson's amazing.
If that is a super flex league and that's a top 8 first, it's the side with Hopkins in the first for me, no question. Because I can sit here and see Breece Hall, Isaiah Spiller, Kenneth Walker. Yeah. Somebody is going to Kyron Williams, Zach Charbonnet. Like somebody is going to get drafted. Probably 3 of them will get drafted to a team that's going to start them.
Yeah, if you ever shot a top 3 running back with that first, or even a top 3 wide receiver, then no. And obviously where those are going to land, Superflex has an effect, like Zach was saying. And then take the first side. Other than that, I think it's fairly even, and you can just go with your fifis on how much you like Akers.
Is this Russ's burner?
I like saying fifis.
I know. No, me and this guy got a lot in common.
Ridley Truther, big Clemson receiver. Like what's going on?
Oh no, we talk. Don't worry.
He shows. Jacob Calloway, welcome in, bud. First, you're playing Dynasty. What are some? First off, slow down. Did you enjoy yourself? I'll come back to the rest of it after you answer my question. No. What are some of the fundamentals about going into your first rookie draft that a newer player may not completely grasp? Good question.
Wait for the Dynasty Dummies rookie hootenanny to come out and listen to everything they say.
Yeah. First off, your rookie picks are going to get increasingly valuable as you get to the draft. That's not something you might necessarily miss, but it might be something you don't exaggerate enough. You cannot possibly imagine the thirst. By the time we get to the draft, even someone who's permanently team old guy and always trade rookie picks is like, can I have your first round pick? I've been researching this guy for 3 months. I just want to draft Tutu Atwell, please. And you give away too much. So don't underestimate that value will come. And second thing off the top of my head is Zach's telling me it might actually be different, but based on the lead up to this draft class, I think it might be slightly underrated.
Yeah.
And so there are values in those later first round picks, just because that's the thing that happens in an underrated class in general. Later first round picks, especially. What else? Feel free. I know I kind of took over there because I've been thinking about writing another Dynasty startup article. So I kind of got a lot on top of my head.
So in a first year rookie draft, it's going to be a little bit tough because you're going to get an awful lot of information from a lot of places. Yep. And but what I would suggest is trying to figure out how to narrow down the sources that you're listening to and paying attention to. And that's not to say that anybody is any better. There are people that are better at this, but figure out who works for you, who works for your style. I listen to Peter a lot because I don't do the analytics side of things. I do my own tape evaluation. If you are comfortable doing something like that, great. If not, I would suggest Ray Garvin. I would suggest that. I mean, there are a whole bunch of people, but figure out who you're going to trust and listen to. And it's going to be tough that first year because there are so many. But once you get a little more comfortable, you can narrow that down and kind of figure out. And the other thing I would say is don't be afraid to trade those picks because you're going to get big value and everything is an absolute crapshoot anyway. The guys who are the best at doing this and figuring out who you should be drafting are only hitting about 60% of the players. So don't be afraid to trade back and add value. Don't be afraid to, if you're uncomfortable with the later rounds, you might be able to trade a third and a fourth for a second next year, and that second is going to be worth more than, and so kind of play around with that and don't be afraid of it. Have fun with it because most people are going to miss anyway.
Yeah, and I looked away for a second and Peter's gone. Don't fall in love with names or players. Hey, I had a home league, and I was, I've been playing Dynasty for a couple of years. These guys haven't, and I'm like, all right, I got my rookie ADP. I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to do that. Wait, who just got? Wait, what just? Wait, who just did? Wait, just because people who aren't really into it as much will find one name and just be like, I like this guy, I'm going to take him. And
that's actually fine, to be fair.
Yeah, it is.
But
it can lead to a panic moment for yourself where you're like, do I stick with my ADP? Is this like I'm getting the 101 at the 108? Oh my God, I must be doing something wrong. So yeah, it's a good point.
But draft for the value that's there. If you really have no interest in any of the players there, trade the pick away, trade back. And also that you can trade after. That's also a very important thing to remember. You have your heart set on any random person in this draft. Craps, he went with the pick before me. Offer the guy a trade. Your pick plus. Wait 5 weeks. See how happy the guy is with his pick. Nothing is final. That's one of the harder things for new people in Dynasty to get is that you can keep trading. It's constantly moving, and everyone's going to have it in their head. I have to think in a 3-year window, 3-year window, 3-year window. Chances are no one will have chances are if it's a really new league with all new people, most people won't be there for 3 years, assuming your league lasts 3 years. But also they'll quickly learn you're not going to have the same people on your team for 3 years. So
and especially right now, if you're starting a Dynasty League this year, this reminds me of everyone who started leagues after 2014. The last 2 rookie classes are really exceptional. We rarely get rookies that are relevant in that season, and if they are, they're running backs.
Yeah.
And I think that can be lost, especially if you're just starting Dynasty. After the last 2 classes, you might be like, well, we're wide receivers going to do something, right? Now, normally we're trying to get excited about 600 yards. That's a good rookie season. And these last 2 seasons, we've had back-to-back historic-making wide receiver seasons.
Yeah.
So, especially if you're thinking like Russ, and that's a really valid point, the league might not last another 30 years, then you're drafting that wide receiver for his value, which means there's always a quotient with wide receivers where it's so I can trade them later if I need to. And if you're looking for an impactful player, you're actually leaning more running back. But that does not mean that late round first running back that happens every freaking year. Mostly just ignore that guy, Trey Sermon. Rest in peace.
And the other thing that I would say to just completely overwhelm Jacob in his first ever rookie draft.
I was going to say, we're going to have to like make a list for him.
Is that especially after the first round, if there's a player that I like, I will, and I know Russ and Peter have heard me talk about this, but I will what I call buy on credit. So if I don't have a second round pick and there's a player that I want, I will offer my third and next year's second and go, whoever's on the clock and say, I'll give you a second and a third and then take my player. And then the next year when I don't have a second, I'll do the same thing. I'll just keep buying on credit, keep kicking that can down the road. And it works. It doesn't work with first round picks because everybody wants to make their first round pick. They're really excited. But once you get out of that first round, you can buy on credit really easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would stay active, watch the draft happen. Don't be too afraid of ADP. That's what my point interjected into Russ's was, because he's right. The draft is going to look different than most of the mocks you try and do. And I would suggest doing mocks before the draft, any draft, just so the more situations you expose yourself to, the less panic you're going to suffer. Like on the clock, especially if there's a timer, it's easy to just change your mind on the clock. And if you just expose yourself to mocks, you get less of, you kind of know what you're going to do depending on whatever happens. So mocks are a good idea. Andy Escoridge's site's got an active mock draft tool where you can draft with yourself using ADP and pick your own pick, and you can just run through as many mocks as you want. I think it's a really cool site for that.
And just continue to listen to the awesome YouTube shows and podcasts on Dynasty League Football.
And I guess so we don't overwhelm you. The other thing would say, I have to actually get out of this mode because I'm too used to it being a permanent fact, is you don't have to rush. Like Zach was saying, you're going to get so much information from so many people that you're going to be ready to draft in about a month, and you're going to realize there's 2 more months to go. Because I'm trying to make content, so I have to get out of this slow gear for rookie content because people want to know earlier, so I should be ready earlier. But for you could start thinking about rookies in a month. All the information is going to be out. Everyone's already going to have chosen their sides, and you're going to catch up moving at a very leisurely pace. So, while all the information can be overload, by the time the draft comes, as long as you're paying, I think you already mentioned later, he listens to Ray GQ, you're actually going to know all you need to know if you just keep up with the content creators, just even casually, for fun. It's going to feel like such an impetus to know everything you need to know next week. But honestly, don't panic. The off season ends up dragging out so long by the end of it that, don't, despite the overwhelming information, you're actually going to catch up on all of it by the end. So enjoy the process. Definitely listen to Ray GQ, listen to the Dynasty shows Russ just mentioned, the YouTube shows, and just enjoy it. You can move at a nice leisurely pace and be perfectly well informed by the time your draft gets here. And if not, you can send Ray answers questions on Twitter. I know for a fact I do. Russ does. Zach does. Constantly listen to the Dynasty Dummies rookie show that he breaks rookies down tier by tier and position by position with J. Mike Check. And it's always a good listen that I listen to every year if you're looking for someone to add to that circle of content creators that might or might not work for you. And have fun. The offseason is wonderful. I love the offseason, even as a player and a creator. So, don't panic on it. It might be the last thing I would say. My bad. I meant a general vet, wide receiver 1 for Swift. Oh, right. Okay. So he wasn't talking Justin Jefferson. He was just talking in general, I guess a Devontae Adams instead. It's a little closer.
Yeah, I would do if you probably can get Devontae Adams plus, in which case, yeah, I'm there for that.
Hey, Michael Thomas. Has everyone forgotten him yet?
I'm fine forgetting him.
You are. Okay. I think okay. So I think he's a wide receiver one. Not a rookie pick yet. Jerry, Sony versus Vikings or Chubb versus Packers in PPR?
Still probably Chubb. I don't do projections, but that would be where I would lean.
Yeah, I think so too. Just the better player.
Well, and you've got Henderson's back this week, and so there's going to be a little bit more of a split with Michelle and Henderson in that backfield for the Rams. And so to me, Chubb has the best chance of housing one of any running back not named Jonathan Taylor.
Good.
Yeah, I mean he's amazing. And if Kareem Hunt is going to be out again, that's going to be a little bit more of a workload for even though Dearness Johnson is fine. But I really think that it's Chubb.
Yeah, start sit questions obviously better towards the end of the week, especially for someone like me who's constantly late. So Friday, check back. Start
Live a little, put it on the line. Come on, Peter.
Would definitely not maybe be someone's answer at the end of the week. Having said that, you're talking about it's not even close. It's Chubb. There's start Nick Chubb, and then there's maybe start Sony Michel. Those are the two tiers. Again, it's Wednesday, but I'd say it's definitely Nick Chubb. I doubt that changes. Even if Henderson's out again, I'd probably still rather start Chubb. Did you have an answer, Russ, or did you give it in one listen?
I was just agreeing with Zach the whole time. I start Chubb.
I find that to be a very strong move, personally. Nathan Larson, Diggs and Connor or Gallup and Akers? Diggs side. Yeah, I think Diggs is my favorite player on that list. So.
I agree with you that Diggs is my favorite player on that list, but I think you can get more for the Gallup and Akers side because of your Akers hive. And I think
maybe
Connor,
maybe in like a month or two. I don't.
Well, that's it. I mean, but that's what you're playing for, right? And unless he's talking about like right now playoffs.
I resent this you not accepting the reality with which you are presented. Stop being an out-the-box thinker, Zach. You gave us a binary choice, and you're like, yes, there's actually a better third option, by the way.
Yeah. You're assuming and you're right, there is a better third option. I don't do that.
Yeah, I would be okay exploring other trades, but if it's just binary here, I'd probably take I take the Diggs side. He's
the best player in the trade. Easy, yeah.
And will be next year after that. It's good. Daniel McGrath. Let's see. Is Jeff Wilson a must start with Mitchell out? Must start? No. Is he probably a start for most teams entering the playoffs? Yes. Yeah. There's like 3 healthy running backs, and if Jeff Wilson's one of them, you're probably starting him.
He's a must start for all of my playoff teams because RB1 JD McKissick is out again this week. So
fair enough. Yeah, I think you're going to be hard pressed to find 24 other running backs to start outside of Jeff Wilson, so he's going to be a running back too. The question is if he's flex level worthy, which means he starts over top 24 wide receivers for me. But he's definitely inside the top 24 running backs, so he's a start. I'm just leaving space now. I feel like I'm attacking Russ when I ask him if he's got anything, so I'm just going to leave space. I mean, anyone can fill it with whatever they want. Joe, how you doing? My tight end group is Tonyan, Uzoma, Parham. Do you pretend there's an N in that? Parham? Okay. Yeah. Jordan, Reyes. I'm honestly not... Like, this isn't a bit. I genuinely suck at English this badly. I like them all, but can't trust it. No, you're definitely trying to tier it. You're trying to get a better tight end in that group.
Who's Reyes?
Samus Reyes, Washington football team. Super athletic, had never played football before, but is now a tight end in Washington.
He is now a tight end.
If you can find a way to package 2 of those up and get someone a little better, yeah. Otherwise, I don't hate starting.
Honestly, it's fine unless you like with tight end. If I'm not aiming for the one on the top 3, I don't care. You stream that group just as well as any other.
It's funny because that's like Parham and Reyes and Uzoma are on a lot of my teams because they are very athletic guys who happen to play tight end, and that could be a recipe down the road for. I mean, it's how I ended up with Mark Andrews. It's how I ended up with Kelsey. It's those are the shots that I take, but you also have to be. You have to come to grips with the fact that most likely they're not going to hit. There may be a gem in there, but most likely they're not.
I was wondering who the top 5, because we talked about this last time. I was wondering if there's anyone that stood out in the top 5 DLF. It's like if I was trying to get again, I think everyone figured out Mark Andrews. So
yep,
that's not value at this point. And I mean, Travis Kelce's probably a falling value at this point.
Yeah, trading for Travis Kelce to me is still a good idea. Honestly, people might be unhappy enough with Hawkinson to get a good price on him.
Yeah, Hawkinson also
just for talking next year.
Goddard, like any of those.
Goddard's a good
tier.
one.
Yeah.
Gesicki, I mean, I still think Evan Ingram's going to constantly be a value, but this year it feels bad. But he's streamable.
But he's also going to go to a new team pretty soon.
Hopefully,
17,
goddamn,
18,
all
19,
that team's
20,
going to be different.
17, right? He was drafted in 17.
He was.
If you're looking for a, I think I feel
there was that class with Njoku. Yeah, so he's
a free agent.
Yeah,
so he can go somewhere good, maybe.
From when they can throw touchdowns. Pat Freiermuth already rocketed into the top 8 dynasty tight ends, but he hasn't scored much recently. And to Zach's point, you might be playing in a league where people, without the constant hype, forget that that's a thing. Pat Freiermuth might be a decent target if you can't get a Hawkinson or a Fant. And I would have him above Ingram easily. Although I end up rostering a lot, he fits all those quotients except for the fact you really can't expect points in the New York Giants. That's a problem. Albert O behind Noah Fant is an interesting if you're looking for a little bit lower.
I really honestly, wanted you to get dangerous and say Okwebunam. I wanted that.
I was not. Yeah, definitely not going to do that. Outside of that, I tend to play tight end with a group like you've got. There are old guys or young, lower drafted guys who I can stream until I can get the Travis Kelce. And I honestly don't know who that is right now, unless it's George Kittle and Travis Kelce. If there's a changing of the guards, I'm gonna have to wait to find that out who that is.
It's like Okwebunam and Gesicki are the names for me that really pop in terms of like athleticism and still haven't been as productive as I think they're going to be, and therefore their acquisition cost is not as high as they're going to be.
Yeah, I felt like I threw out too many names there. So if I was gonna try and go for one for the potential upside, it would probably be Pat Freiermuth. Outside of that, I specifically would be trading for Kittle or Kelce or just being happy with the committee.
Yeah,
that's the way I kind of play the position. But there are plenty, like we just showed, there are plenty of the decent targets. If you find a team with one of those players and they're interested in trading, and you're probably going to get a pretty good deal on them. And that's what I do with your tight end position. Richard Davis, I have Bateman, Etienne. Like he spelled it. He's like me. Sanders and Jacobs on a rebuilding team. Trade them. Then I'm more than willing to trade them off in the offseason. What should I be looking for? Picks or players? I mean, it'd be a trade. Who's willing to trade what? Unfortunately, Richard, and I get this is a really reasonable question. There's no answer I can give where I wouldn't mislead you ultimately, because it really depends on the people in your league. I can tell you the type of things I'd be interested in targeting in general, or my highest list, and I actually have one of those. Because I realize people ask this question a lot. Ultimately, you have to make like the players you want list. Fuck value. Fuck who's gonna come out surprised. Screw sleepers. Who are the players you really believe in? And those are the players you target. Ultimately, you tier them. You're willing to pay different things for different ones, but that's ultimately the goal. Bateman would actually be one of the players on my list, but I would be willing to trade him because his value seems to be decent for a rebuilding team to trade away right now. As for the running backs, trade all of them. And a rebuilding team, you don't need them.
I mean, the easy answer is both. It's always fun to have players and picks.
Yeah. And as a rebuilding team, you can be willing to go, I don't need to make a pick this year. I can trade for 23 picks. I can trade for 24 picks, would probably be as far as I go ultimately. But if you're truly rebuilding, you have that option to be, well, I'm not trying to turn it around immediately. You are, but you have that access to being able to be a little more flippant with it.
And the other nice thing about picks specifically is that they're going to retain and gain value from the end of the season to the rookie draft. And 2023 picks are just going to be, a skyrocket for the next, 14 months or 15 months, whatever. It's the 2023 class is already being hyped up last year, and it's just going to continue to crescendo. So
yes.
I like having picks as a rebuilder because I think it gives you more flexibility, but I'm also open to adding younger, undervalued, and I agree with both Russ and Peter. Trade the running backs now.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And to be clear, though, the word rebuilding we have a preset definition. If you're like, well, my team's not that bad, come on, guys, then there's a word called retooling. Sometimes it's thrown around, or whatever you want to call it.
It's like bell cow running back.
But if you're just looking to improve, you throw a little less caution to the wind. But rebuilding, especially looking at the players that you've got, that feels more like rebuilding. And so, you go out to you're trying to add value with every trade instead of specific players with every trade if you're rebuilding. That's the way I kind of think of it. And that's why you have that option with the picks, because picks, I hate them, but the security in their value, it is the currency of Dynasty. It is a thing, and you can rely on it. Ridley's talking to Jacob. My rookie rule of thumb is when in doubt, raid GQ. I don't think it's a bad rule of thumb. Mine's more of when in doubt, panic. Or talk to Zach, or talk to J. Mike Check, but raid's on the list for sure. Also, what are some good bottom of the bench tight ends to hold going into next year? My tight end room is Pitts, J. Smith, Parham, Tremble. You don't need
good.
one.
I mean,
you don't need it. In fact, you can drop everyone. You can trade away everyone but Pitts. You have one of those top fives, and that's you. If he doesn't pan out, he doesn't pan out. But I think he's going to be fine. But then again, I thought that with Ingram, to be fair, and. Everyone else is kind of disposable. There's always a Hunter Henry or Rob Gronkowski or to get with a tight end position. That's the nature of it. But you have one of those rare tight ends, so you don't really need to put a lot of effort into changing that position, would be my take. And everyone else is nodding or at least looking bored, so guessing they feel the same. Both.
What are you watching?
My QB prospect sources... Tim Jenkins, J2 O'Sullivan. I think I know at least one of those without avatars. I'm a little lost. They're both ex-NFL QBs who understand the position well beyond most fantasy experts offering the film and analytic evaluations. Good to know.
Cool. Never heard of those names before.
I'm pretty sure J2 O'Sullivan, the name looks familiar, but seriously, without Twitter avatars, I don't know anyone. Sound like a good source of information. I appreciate it, Joe. Yeah, I don't understand the NFL at all, to be fair. So that's not really crossing much of a threshold. But like, I get how it could be seen. I understand fantasy pretty well. NFL, and I'm just a fan. How are you guys doing with the rookie class? Done anything on them? Like that question earlier, I realized what screwed me up is because I didn't recognize Burks as a name, so I didn't understand the sentence.
The only reason I know that name is because Zach was on Trade Addicts. What was that, yesterday?
Yeah.
And he said his name.
I haven't been able to click into my podcast queue. Lately.
Honestly, it's the only reason I've heard that name before. I'm actually going to go fill my water bottle. I'll be right back.
I've started to dive in. I'm about 6 or 7 guys deep in each position. So, I'm not there yet where I can give you like a definitive ranking, but I do know some of the players that I like already. But
Want to share it all?
I mean, what do you want? Do you want? We've talked a little bit about running backs here. I know that last week.
To be fair, I'm asking you to tell other people. It will literally mean nothing to me at this sense because you'll say good things, but I won't be able to assign them to any people I know, and my mind is very much a disorganized filing cabinet.
Well, so looking at this class and hearing a lot of people early on kind of poo-poo the 2022 class, I've been pleasantly surprised by the running backs. I have Breece Hall in kind of a clear tier 1. He is graded out for me very similarly to what Nashee Harris and Javonte Williams did last year. So I expect him to be very good. He's had 2 seasons with 20 plus receptions, really good vision inside. He does a good job turning defenders' hips when he cuts, which is something that gains extra yards, because if you can turn a defender the way you want to and then go the other way, that's beneficial to you as a runner. I think the knock that is going to be put on him is he's sometimes too patient, and I will fully agree with that. But more often than not, his patience pays off. Isaiah Spiller is another pretty good running back, very good pass catcher, a little smaller than Hall, but still 6'1", 215. Like, for all of you BMI stands, he's gonna be in that window. I think that he has power, which means that he doesn't mind running through tackles, but sometimes that gets you in trouble. And I think he gets hit an awful lot on the second level. Kenneth Walker is my next running back, not really a pass catcher, but the best runner in the class by far.
Like a Jarrett Patterson type?
No, but I think better than, like, it's similar pass catching. Like, he had 19 receptions in 3 years.
Like, I look forward to you retelling me all of that in about a month, to be honest. Thoughts on Tony Pollard? Trade away, hold Zeke? The answer is always going to be like, trade away for what? But ultimately, I'm very interested in moving him because he's a running back.
And he's about to be a second contract running back, and we're still holding on to the idea that he's going to be a thing because Zeke won't be a thing.
I think he's a pretty decent player. It's just, ultimately, there always seems to have been more hype than points. So, it's kind of where I'm at. I'm not giving away from nothing. I think he's a pretty decent player in a situation where opportunity opens up fairly often. So that's cool. That's good. I'm not eager to get rid of him, but like, if I'm getting I hate using picks as rough trade values, but I mean, late first.
Oh my God! If you're getting a first,
fine, that'd be
do
great.
That right now.
If it's just a second, I'm probably just keeping Pollard.
I would take a second for Pollard.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I'll probably just take the second. Most
really, Zach, you're drinking moonshine during the show?
Maybe.
You're not? I thought that was our thing. We all just
here. I mean, vodka.
Oh, I missed that memo.
That's my clear liquor.
Jacob Calloway. So is this game essentially building a profile and continue to accrue value until I'm ready to compete, and then worry about roster construction?
Yep.
Wide receivers, QBs first, and running backs at the window. Essentially, I think people exaggerate different elements of that in different ways. Especially, look, the number one thing that no one mentions about Dynasty is that the best year to win is the first one. If you don't miss that year, you fall into this cycle where you're very much prone to variance, injury, and everything else. So I think pushing to win in that first year in your draft is really important, but you are going to want value. So if you don't win, you can actually do something without having to go through 3 rookie drafts. So essentially, yes, but there are different elements of it which you can play slightly slim.
It's a very simplified way to put it, but honestly, the answer is yes.
Yeah, it's a real simple game, to be honest. With everyone talking about it all the time, it can be made to seem overly complicated. But yeah, it is. It's a really simple game, especially since we have no control of the outcome. It's not like we're even, hey, running back, do this thing, even if we told them they wouldn't listen because they have other concerns like winning an NFL game. So yeah, mock it up before you. Yeah, true. Up. Yep. Yep. I've sworn consistently on this podcast. I don't know why I froze.
I really got confused as to why you stopped because
I don't know. It feels somehow
like
dirtier
hell.
when it's someone else's swear word. Like,
Oh no, that's
tricked into it.
that's married to the game. That's a podcast that they do a really good mock draft. Like I appreciate them as people from Charleston, South Carolina.
That sounds made up.
I'm also trying to keep the bottom of my bench rotating. I have Kellen Mond as a guy on the bottom. Do you think he has any possible future value?
Fast.
Yeah, that's fair. You can keep rotating there, but I mean, he's a quarterback, right?
Yeah.
Again, we're talking 1 QB in this guy's league, right? In which case, you don't need him.
Yeah,
if it's super flex, you absolutely hold on to him. But if it's a 1 QB league, then you don't.
Even in Dynasty, you barely have to keep a second QB. You kind of do in Dynasty because the waiver wire is a little more barren. But I mean, backup QB, no, in 1 QB, not so much. I did a bunch of trades this year with some big value trades. And some paying up for future studs, Lamb, Chase, Pitts, cool, on a rebuilding team. Is there any type of trading you would suggest for rebuilding?
You're doing
yeah. It's the one I've always said, you're always looking to accrue value. Ultimately, like was just laid out very simply, the ultimate goal is to work your way into this elite point scoring, not elite value number of players in a given year so you can actually win. But if you're rebuilding, you're essentially just constantly trying to add value so you can make moves to have that roster when you have enough value to do that with, or you luck into a few players, or not luck, but a few of the players are actually performing well, and then you can use your value to really chase that year's win, the ultimate win, which you're all looking for.
Great way to learn about different kinds of trading. The Trade Addicts podcast, a proud member of the DLF family of podcasts.
Why does everyone have plugs but me? Everyone. Are you guys into Devi? I'm not,
No.
Which is weird since rookie evaluation is one of my favorite things. But the NFL keeps me busy enough. And I already, Travis May over there at RotoViz, not DLF, but still an excellent guy, used to work for DLF, who plays Devi. Also, Kane. What's his Twitter at?
At Devi_Kane.
He works, he's at DLF right now as well, isn't he? Nope. Do we have any Devi guys? None?
Just got Shane, his co-host on Devi Marketplace.
Oh, nice.
Devi Marketplace.
But yeah, I check in with them regularly. I think it's really interesting to take in other people's perspective and information in general, but all of those are really solid Devi players, and they can get you up to speed pretty quick. And again, small headspace. The NFL is more, just those 4 positions in the NFL keep me more than busy enough. And I've actually found it more of an advantage. That's why I stick to it, to not have that, just because of my nature, I guess.
Yeah.
Because I have some nasty habits, and I avoid a lot of them by just not having any preferences. I don't know who this team is or this conference is. I never heard of this guy, and it's
also, to be fair, Peter doesn't watch football in general at all. So,
well, and that's like for me.
Oh, wait, sorry, he calls it soccer. That's what that is.
For me, I don't Devi because of my evaluation of incoming rookies for Dynasty, because I don't want to know anything about these players before I start evaluating, because then I have a bias, a preconceived. So no, none of us Devi. Sorry,
but we failed. Jacob Calloway, how much does landing spot matter? A lot, but also not as much as you might think.
We start calling it the AJ Brown paradox at this point, because AJ Brown was a lot of people's wide receiver 1 coming into the 2019 draft, and then he got drafted by the Titans, and then he fell to like the last pick of the first round.
Well, Trey Sermon, pretty much landing spot was a whole argument.
Yes, Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah,
I mean,
that was half the argument, but yeah.
He was most people's. I can't
5.
Running back 5. And then he went to the 101. I'm sorry, him landing in Kansas City 1000% greatly affected his rankings.
I entirely agree. Landing spot is really useful for describing unexpected results, and we can make it sound perfectly like that. Obviously, that's what happened. We should pay attention to it. But before it happens, it's not a great predictor of what's going to ultimately happen. So it's one of these things that feels like we should definitely be paying attention to it, and we definitely should, but it doesn't predict how well a player is going to perform in that situation. One, because the situation is actually a little uncertain. The Titans were literally a terrible team when A.J. Brown got drafted to them, and then suddenly A.J. Brown's there, suddenly Derrick Henry's everything we thought he could be, and Ryan Tannehill, as the failed quarterback in Miami, who used to be a wide receiver, as if no one's ever mentioned that, actually turns out to be this really efficient quarterback. And obviously a lot of that has to do with the players as well. And ultimately we can just be a lot more sure of how well they're distinguishing themselves and how well that mix of landing spot and that player is going to work out. DJ Moore is a disappointment in some ways, and it's very readily explainable because of the quarterback's inability to create touchdown opportunities, because that's what's missing for DJ Moore. But we also don't know if he'd gone to another team, if he would still have this weird touchdown facet to his game. And so it's one of those things that's really descriptive, but it really doesn't help us predict. And so ultimately, while it's really important, we mostly over adjust for it with our rookie evaluations and our rookie drafts. And that's
use it as
probably
a
the
tiebreaker.
best I can say.
Yeah, use landing spot as a tiebreaker.
Maybe.
I wouldn't change anyone's rankings because of landing spot. But if I had two guys right next to each other and I liked the team some guy landed on, I would move him ahead of the other guy.
Yep. Ultimately, it's a blind spot. We know it matters. We don't know how. Trading down for Waller, which is just a weird sentence. Sorry. Just had to wrap my head around that one. Got it in a first.
I would trade from Waller to Goddard first.
I traded Waller for Dawson Knox and Russell Gage.
I traded him for Amari Cooper.
Shut up, Zach. Ah,
which is much
you
worse.
Didn't even mean to.
I just click buttons. It's like the monkeys in the monkeys in the typewriter. Eventually, you'll get Shakespeare.
Hasn't happened yet, but sure. Richard Davis. And I do the players I want list, and I got most of them off that list last year, which is always disappointing. It's like, why do I try for now? So I'm running out of players on that list, trying to make some more I want. That's great.
Join new leagues.
Yeah, honestly, that's how we end up in so many leagues. But also, one fun thing I find that's pretty useful and pretty effective is looking not just for young players that you want, but looking for likely breakouts. It's one of the stuff I actually started tabling this offseason. It's one of the reasons I started targeting and suggesting other people target Marcus Brown and Deebo Samuels. So they were off and they felt like they've been in the league significantly. They're actually in some of the most likely top 12 years because there's some predictability to the height or the growth of a player's potential based on what he's already done in the NFL. Juju is also on that list. I'm not saying it's 100%, okay? But there are other ways of finding players that aren't necessarily young and fresh. And although, especially with Deebo and Marquez, one of the features of them tends to be, they're 24 and they've done well in the NFL, but they're not the new shiny thing. But that's one way of searching for other players to add. The other way is look for those falling, aging players. Like we were just saying earlier, the old guys get discounted, but they still continue to be the ones scoring points a lot of the times. Mm-hmm. And that can be a fun way to add players too. Or apparently watching football, you start to like players for some reason while watching, and that can be a fun way to, according to some people. What are some of the worst trades you all did this year and the ones you are most proud of? Russ, take it away.
Oh, man.
I mean, I would be ashamed of that Waller trade.
Far too many. I twice in 2 leagues, I traded a 22 first for Chris Carson before the league started. That kind of makes me sad because it's funny because we were talking about it on Trade Addicts last night, and it's me, Zach, and Rocky, and the 2 people I did it with were Zach and Rocky. That sucked. The
2 people I did it with was Zach and Rocky.
Yeah,
just letting that one run around.
If I had $1, no,
sorry. I said what I said.
That's fair.
But no, but that was at the. So that's the
at the time it made sense. And
that's the thing with trading, and I think so. While you think of the one you're most proud of, because I know that's going to be. It's hard for you to speak highly of yourself, but while you do that, idea
because I do way too many.
I think one of the things that people get so caught up in is being afraid of winning and losing trades and then patting yourself on the back immediately after it happened. Chris Carson, should have been, barring injury, should have been a very good running back in a run-heavy system with a high-powered offense with Russell Wilson and Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. Like all of that should have been worth a first. That, whatever, this is a down class, and that should have worked out. It didn't, and I think that if you get in your head that we don't know, and so make trades that you're happy with, and then if they don't work out, trade again. Like I've become a disciple of yours, Russ. Like I've listened enough to like finally understand that a trade is not a finite item. It's not self-contained. It is, a way to improve your team, but it's not the end. Like when you make a trade, it's not necessarily over. You can make another one, and you can make another one. And that, to me, getting that in your mind is, half the battle. So like trades that you win and trades that you lose, like I may have lost. Like you and I made a trade, Russ, in Olympians where I traded you Trevor Lawrence in a first, and I got back Dak. And did I win that? I don't know, because if Trevor Lawrence in 2 years is Patrick Mahomes, then I got my rear end handed to me. But it was a good trade at the time because I needed another quarterback. And Lawrence was not doing what I needed him to do in order for my team to make the playoffs and be a contender. And so, like, was it a good trade? I don't know. It was a good trade at the time. and so I think that's all you can kind of do is you put it in the hands of fate.
No, you can definitely declare victory much earlier. That's been my experience in fantasy. Honestly, most of the ones I did well on, I'm ashamed of at the same time, so they all kind of work. Like, I don't like I'm not trying to win trades. I'm looking for even trades, and the ones I've won in the end, by the end of this season, all feel like I should be ashamed of them that I did that to another team. I don't know why, but like I traded Cal in DLF League, Ben Roethlisberger, because he needed a quarterback, and Will Fuller, back when Will Fuller might have still been a thing. For Mike Evans. That's the first time I've ever gone out acquired Mike Evans in any fashion, because he's always been, in my opinion, overvalued despite the production. And so I thought that was a pretty good trade. It worked out well. And now I feel bad about it, so I'm also ashamed of it. Because now, looking at it now, it's like, man, I stuck it to Cal, but at the time I really wasn't trying to. And Cal's much smaller than me, so I don't know how I managed that. I also traded away Mike Thomas because, again, ashamed and happy with this trade because I'm happy that I was following my advice. I was trying to win. But by the end of the season, I'm trying to tank because it was not working out. So it's kind of it's a shameful trade now. But at the time, I was proud that I actually went for it. I traded Mike Thomas for Antonio Brown, Will Fuller, because at the time he was still a thing, and a first-round pick. But I like the fact I added value on the end, so just in case, that first-round pick helped me out. One I'm just purely ashamed of. Even at the time, I was like, what? I feel bad. And that's the one I mentioned earlier, because I traded Jalen Reagor and a first for Nashee Harris. I'm ashamed I sent that. The fact he accepted it feels like I'm sharing the ashamedness. But then I remembered that he's a huge Philadelphia fan, and so I really just stuck it to poor old Shane. And I'm pretty ashamed of that. I did trade Nashee Harris away mid-tank, and I got CD Lamb, which I think is just a fair trade and also a good move for me. Because my team was definitely not going to win in the end, so it was time to try and undo some of the damage I'd done. And I think that was a fairly good trade as well. And I think, at least so far, Russ hasn't owned me and I haven't owned him. I think that's been a pretty good trade. So I don't have to feel ashamed of it yet. So it's probably the one I like most. Mason, thoughts on Tony going into year 2? Sell. I managed to finish the sentence before I said it. I'm proud of myself. I've been saying sell Tony. Look, Tony's incredibly. There's no way you can actually accidentally, occasionally it happens, watch players play and not be like, that man's impressive. I get it. But I stick on what happens most often, and Tony does not, in most cases, despite how unbelievable, uncomparable his athleticism is to pretty much anyone else. I don't think he produces consistent or an overall top 24 year, or definitely not a top 12 year. And he can definitely kind of recoup first value on him still right now. So I would try to do that. Having said that, yeah, impressive man to watch for sure. So I get why people are a little more hesitant on it.
If you're in a lot of leagues, or even just like more than 2 or 3, I like to have just in share cases of guys, but it's also because I'm in like 26 leagues that I could do that. I would want to own a few Tonys, because if he stays healthy, if they get Russell Wilson shows up, like, again, pure pipe dream, but it's one of the 3 teams he said he would waive his no trade clause for. If he shows up there, like, that's the kind of guy Russell Wilson can use. And if Tony can stay healthy, again, this is a lot of ifs. It's a lot of dreams and rainbows, but it seems like it can in fact be a possibility. If half that offense gets their shit together, Tony can be really not like wide receiver 1 kind of guy, but he could be fun with a lot of spike weeks. So I would like to hold on to
it's a thing where, since you're asking me, I have to make sure you're aware. Yeah, it could definitely happen. But if you're honestly asking for me, it's like Terrence Marshall. And this is not about the players. It's just about my dynasty process says, get out. Like, was never in. I 100% don't believe is going to be a viable fantasy regular contributor, or whatever we want to call them. And I'm fairly good at admitting and just fully accepting when I get this wrong, because I do get it wrong. But like, I'm 100% my process says I've been sell day one, so I actually don't have any of them on my team, so I can't. But still, at a certain point, they become values. But I don't think Tony's there. I don't think Marshall's there. And so I'm still on team. I don't want them.
It's one of those things where, like, Kadarius Toney, Laviska Shenault, they're going to need to be more than 2 coaches willing to Cordarrelle Patterson in order for them to be successful. Like, that's the role that they need.
Cordarrelle Patterson is someone that turns up in my head the way weird things mix together, because they're very unlike each other. But he's just so phenomenally different. You can envision a path, but look how does that route spin? Yeah,
but you've got to scheme them. You have to make them a focal point of what you're doing, and there aren't very many coaches who are going to take a guy who doesn't succeed the way you normally succeed in the NFL.
And it's like the Bears got forced to. This is where the situation thing comes in again. Because you would have thought, like, the genius coach who would have been willing would be Belichick. He's had some.
Well, and did
instead, it's when a team's like, oh shit, Calvin Ridley's retired and everyone else sucks. Yeah. And like, they were forced, and it's difficult to see coming. At least. Sorry, I didn't mean to talk all over you, but I do that. You know that.
Yes,
I'll just shut up. Hang on.
But now what? What do we do? I don't know.
This is why I'm here. No one else likes to talk over other people, so my job is to be the dick, and I'm good at it. I'm pretty good at being an ass. Let's go.
Turn to me and Zach staring into each other's eyes for the next half hour.
Hopefully that was interesting for you, Mason. And again, I 100%. I'm on team. If you feel differently, you got to go with what you think ultimately. But that's honestly where I'm at. Richard Davis, what are your expectations for Trey Lance next year? I think we talked about this a little bit earlier. I think where I don't have any sure or even vaguely sure things about quarterback, other than completion percentage, maybe over expected or expected points, and we haven't seen him play. So I got nothing. And so all I can see is this narrative that was built up around the draft that seemed confirmed when Shanahan went out and drafted him over the quarterbacks. None of that tells me shit about the players. What I'm left with is I'm not paying these prices for a thing Ben Baldwin, as genius as he is, or the other analytics gurus can tell me about Shanahan and the quarterbacks, are saying. Like, I want to see the player do shit before I would ever go near him at these kind of prices. That's where I'm at. I think Jimmy G's a starter. There you go. Boom. Boom. I don't know. But, like, that's the horse I will ride until I'm wrong.
Saying I think boom, Jimmy G will be gone, but you're gonna find out what Trey Lance is next year, and The one nice thing I will say about him, and he wasn't.
Man can run for sure.
Yeah, and that's it. And like he wasn't my one or my two. And as much as I hate to say this, Mac Jones was a really good thrower of the football, did a lot of things in terms of getting guys open, being able to throw players into yards after the catch. You're looking at a guy with a big arm who runs well. And that has worked.
Of them.
But if you're gonna throw a dart, like big arm runs well has been successful recently in the NFL. But it's again, I'm not going out and acquiring Lance. I know Russ is very upset about this because you're a big Trey Lance guy. He's not a player that I'm actively going out and acquiring because I don't want to take that risk on such a high value position. But if that risk pays off, man, that's a huge win.
Yeah.
It's almost never worth it at quarterback is the other thing. He could be good. He would be great. And he's not Kyler Murray, Patrick Mahomes. Those are the difference makers. And they're few and far between, even when they're good. So Russell Wilson's one of the most amazing quarterbacks in the history. And he's difference maker for half a year consistently. If he's good, he has to be great. And if he's great, he has to be a unicorn of unicorns, even to hit where people think his upside is. And so I think even if I'm wrong on being out, mostly it's a soft landing. And I think I prefer that value. I think I can find better bets with the value that he carries right now.
And the fact that he's going ahead of Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers in Dynasty, like I would much rather have Russell Wilson or whatever you have left from Aaron Rodgers than Lance. I would.
I'm so out. It's like I was never.
But it could be a boat.
No, it could
no,
be
it's
a boat.
not.
No,
it's not. It's
just
not a boat.
those two players that you
boat.
named. It's two players. Like, don't get me wrong. They're great, great NFL quarterbacks. I don't want Russell Wilson on any of my fantasy teams.
No, that's the thing. You want Jalen Hurts.
And
no one wants him. You can get Jalen Hurts or Trey Lance. Do that.
If you could tell me where Aaron Rodgers is going to be playing next year, then I would say give me Aaron Rodgers. But
for sure,
honestly, if you could tell me Aaron Rodgers is playing next year, I want Aaron Rodgers over Trey Lance. But Trey Lance is still worth more.
Yeah, he definitely is. He's got the value, and that's the thing. I've got it. What am I? It's burning a hole in my pocket. The value of Trey Lance is just burning a hole in my pocket. I just can't wait to let it fall out, and people owe me in 2 years when he's actually Patrick Mahomes. And cool. That happened once. It can happen again.
Mm-hmm.
He was a lot better in college in every way, but whatever. To me, landing spot matters more for right side linebackers,
running backs, RBs.
Okay. Honestly, because we were talking about IDP earlier, honestly, I was like, are we back?
Maybe it is. Maybe it is
how specific that would be.
I happen to know that's an abbreviation because we're in Devi and I was remembering things, and I'm sorry. Because they have the shortest careers and their production relies most on others. Yeah, I think that's
kind of true, yeah.
On 4 skill positions, but it doesn't disguise talent. I don't think we really know what talent is. We know the least about talent at the running back position. It's purely a function of volume. It's inseparable format. That's the difficult with running backs. But yeah, they have shorter careers. They have more immediate value, and their value tends to be more craved, especially in season, especially when you have at least 4 teams every year who are really in contention and willing to trade for them. But yeah, I think you got it in a nutshell. I think landing spot is still a mystery. I know it matters for sure. I do not think we can read it nearly as well as we need to be able to start saying Trey. And we're just mentioning the misses. That, to be fair, honestly, Rashad Penny landing spot was a plus at the time, but there are hits. No, Saquon Barkley was onto a team that we didn't want to see him on, but it didn't matter. CMC was a terrible landing spot because Cam Newton doesn't throw to. I can't honestly think of a lot
Cam
of hits
Newton
that landing
couldn't.
spot gave us.
Cam Newton
Literally, that
couldn't
was what they
throw
said.
to the running back.
No, it's just too
He
far.
threw
can only
too
throw it.
hard, had
Yeah,
no
it's just-
touch, and had no accuracy within 5 yards.
And Christian McCaffrey couldn't possibly catch a ball thrown that hard. He's just a small little white man. That's what it felt like. But it definitely does matter. You're right, Joe. But we don't know how to weight that. Like Russ said, it shouldn't change a rank, but it's definitely nice or nasty, but ultimately shouldn't change ranks. With kind of bad at projecting how that mix works, or at least I am. Maybe, I mean, there are plenty of people who are probably better at it. Tonio Bateman.
I would say everybody put in Bateman on 3. 1, 2, 3, Bateman.
Bateman.
I heard you say Antonio Bateman, and I'm like, what the hell? What? It just like broke. I couldn't read because of what you said.
Of
like,
Antonio Bateman. No,
what?
Yeah,
But you haven't watched the 2027 class yet, Russ? Antonio Bateman?
Antonio Bateman. No, who is it? I'm gonna have to look at his avatar, but he said he's going to invent a fake running back.
We did that. We did that 2 years ago. We did Jackson
I'll let him
Jenkins.
know.
We did
Jeff,
a profile.
Jeff. And Matt Spencer from Rotoviz says, I'm not sure Pete hasn't been doing that for years as an unspoken bit, because I'm not sure Andy Isabella was a real prospect. And honestly, I'm going to take that, because otherwise I have to own up to my Andy Isabella. But yeah, I think that's a neat idea. But yeah, it's Bateman in value, Bateman in likelihood of success, Bateman. And if they both hit the ceilings, you're probably going to want Bateman. If they both hit the floors, you're probably going to want Bateman. It's, again,
He's got
can
a
be
nicer
wrong a lot.
smile.
I'm wrong fairly often. I just mentioned Andy Isabella, right? But there's going to have to be some galaxy branding to think that the best bet there is Tony, I think. Should I sit DJ Moore for Amon-Ra St. Brown?
Yeah, you
should.
PPR. How gross is that? But you should.
In 0.5, though?
Pretty gross.
I mean, okay, so DJ Moore going to catch a touchdown that he hasn't all year?
Yeah, but I think he's better after the catch than Amon-Ra is.
Yeah, I don't know. That's close, I guess. I love DJ Moore, but
I honestly, it's flip a coin.
Yeah,
I guess.
I'd start DJ Moore.
I would start DJ Moore because I would. It's always here's.
I actually
how
think.
Go ahead.
Huh?
Here's how what would make you feel worse? Starting Amon-Ra St. Brown and DJ Moore scores more points, and you feel like an idiot because you should have just started the dude you wanted, or you start the dude you wanted to, and it would have been risky, but Amon-Ra scored more. Like, honestly, that's why I usually not necessarily like ride and die with start your studs, but like in something like this, I'm less. Wait, hold on. I am more risk averse when it comes to this. I am less risky. I will start the guy that I believe in more as a player, and that's DJ Moore.
I think that's what you should do, Daniel. Which one of these gives you the funny feelings in that special area? Let's say, you know what I mean. Your tummy. And start that guy. You should really start the one you feel special about. I start DJ Moore. Russ says probably Amon-Ra. No,
Russ said DJ Moore. I said Amon-Ra St. Brown because I'm seeing 12 targets, 11 targets in the last 3 games, and nobody's going to be there to take targets. Like he's going to see volume. He's going to, have 7 or 8 catches. He's going to have 60 to 85 yards, and if he catches a touchdown, then you're going to be kicking yourself for starting DJ Moore. But
that's right. I think
I want DJ Moore in Dynasty.
It's whichever one you prefer. We have different preferences here. I honestly think DJ Moore calls him even in half-point PPR this week. But again, I'm wrong a lot, which is why you always just listen to advice, sure. But like Russ says, it's going to feel a lot worse if you start who I say and you felt differently. It's not really about the players at that point. Because it's like, what's that decision-making tactic where they take away the decision and just give you one, and then you kind of feel bad you didn't get the other one, and then you know what your actual choice was. If you know what I mean? No? That's what we're doing.
Psychology.
Yeah, whatever. Joe, proudest trade, Josh Jacobs and a 2021 first, a late first, for Justin Herbert. If it's in Superflex, that's a win.
That is a win.
Mm-hmm. It's a big win. Richard Davis, best trade, Nick Chubb and Gallup, both of whom I like, for Jamar Chase. Okay, yeah.
That's still, yeah.
And James Conner early on in the year. Oh, back when he couldn't catch balls or he was just touchdowns. Like, remember that brief period in the offseason where everyone was like, he's unable to catch a football? That was great.
Because the stripes on the ball were different colors.
Yeah, the stripes on the ball. Oh, that was fun. Worst trade, Mark Andrews for a 2024 first and Jacoby. That was bad at the time, dude. But yeah, I'm sure I've got worse. I traded Tyreek Hill for like Philip Dorsett in the first after his first year. That was bad. And I didn't want Philip Dorsett. It's just no one would give me anyone else. And I just wanted out. That was a bad trade. We also traded David Johnson literally the week before he went off in his first year and became that league winner for like nothing. For like literally nothing. Because I needed something to start that week. I was young and inexperienced, you know. Doing a startup draft. It was like for a kicker, man, or something stupid. I held him all year as well because I knew. And anyway, Matt, doing a startup draft. Remember David Johnson, prime David Johnson? That was a magnificent thing to watch, for real. Not that I watched it. Doing a startup draft soon for Superflex Dynasty, and the guy with the first pick wants to trade down. Yeah, must do. What do you think it would take to move up from the 9th pick, and do you think it would be worth it?
No, won't be. But I would do it because it's fun.
Yeah. I don't think there's a clear.
There's a top 3.
There's especially in Superflex. Yeah, there's a top few that are worth trading up for.
But okay, wait. Let's do this.
Okay.
Mahomes, Kyler, Allen,
Herbert,
and then Jonathan Taylor, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson.
I can't believe
Nashee Harris.
Fix your face to put Jefferson behind Chase, but yeah.
No, I was honestly. I'm just remembering as I go.
We're just listing a random 8. Okay.
Lamb.
Yeah, I said Lamb, but yeah.
And then you're gonna get Justin Herbert because we didn't name him
Herbert.
Yet.
Did you not?
Yeah, he said Herbert. So if you
I didn't.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Like because I was counting on my fingers. Like there's a lot of.
Yeah. The 9th pick's pretty valuable.
Like any of those guys I just listed, you would be thrilled at the 9th pick to get.
You're not in the first tier, but you're in the 2nd tier, and that's a pretty good tier to be in.
Yeah,
and you haven't even mentioned the fact that Kyle Pitts is worth the 0001 according to everything.
Right. I apologize, John Bosch, Bob Gilchrist, and Matt Price. Yeah, like there's so many players in that first round that you could feel great about that I don't think it would. And I mean, like I would still feel great getting Lamar Jackson and Dak Prescott at the end of the first. So yeah. Also, depending on how many
there's
teams,
no
if you're doing like a
need.
10 team, then like don't get those quarterbacks because they lose a little value with less teams. I would absolutely be thrilled to walk out of the first round with one of those wide receivers or Jonathan Taylor.
And Superflex is a little different because there's a clear tier that's worth trading up for. But if Justin Herbert might throw to you, then yeah, you're kind of still in that tier at quarterback. But last year, I would have said, I mean, there's the uniqueness of all uniqueness, and that's CMC at the top, but you don't want to spend the 101, maybe. And look how that worked out. So I don't think you need to trade up. You're probably going to have to pay too much. Trading up in the first and a startup, it's one of those things where you do that first and a third for like a second and a fourth, right?
Like if you're the 109, like first of all, I always just try and trade my future stuff. Like if you can do the 109 and the 23 first for the 101, cool. Why not? You can get a 23 first later. But if you would do like your first and second round pick for their first and like third or fourth, you're still fine because the difference between players in the third or fourth is pretty small. I'd be fine moving back a couple of spaces into the fourth just to go and get who I want at the 101. Like that's really what you're paying for. You're paying to pick whichever frickin' player you want.
Mm-hmm. I think at the 9th pick, I probably don't, because you're going to get one of those first tier players. If you have 9 players that across the positions are in the first tier, yeah, it's probably too expensive. Most players are trying to trade black in Dynasty. That's where I started, and that's probably true. But if you have a clear difference maker, like Russ says, that you definitely want, like it was very easily Patrick Mahomes the last 2 years, and this year people have noticed that like he's not always a QB1, so suddenly that makes it different. So maybe you don't feel that way, but it's probably too much. But Russ is right on the overall trade that you probably have to do. But the idea of making a trade in order to... I should just make sure I check the next comment, by the way. But the idea of making a trade in order to make another trade, has worked out pretty well for me. Yeah, especially in Dynasty. If you are active and interested in trades, volume is trades. Russ does it because he enjoys it, but everyone I know who's good at building that way, it's literally volume, trade to trade to trade to trade to trade. And I'm not good at it. Personally, I know Zach prefers to build through rookie drafts by targeting individual rookie drafts. I try to target falling players and values, and I love undrafted free agents. Worst strategy ever, but I have my fun. So look at me. So there's different ways of going about it. And since this is your natural inclination, I think it sounds like, it's working for you. Did anyone else hear that sound? It was vaguely like the Twilight Zone coming to abduct me.
What? Seriously? Like I freaked out for a second. I'm like that sounded like a body scanner. Like
I was waiting. I was like, good. I've been looking for an adventure that isn't, mundane and plumbing orientated. Hey guys, I got my first Dynasty League. Congrats! Thanks to your tutelage, our tutelage. Oh. We've got some leagues for you should probably check out. But no, really appreciate it. Appreciate all the advice. Love you guys. Well, thanks, Rick. I really appreciate that, man. And let us know. Keep coming back, or just hit us up on Twitter, where you'll find other smart people you'll probably prefer. But yeah, keep asking. Don't be afraid to ask, especially since it's your first year. Would you say Dynasty is a hard curve? Because like we pointed out earlier, it's a remarkably simple game that you can get really in over your head with all the thoughts and do this and just do that. And there are so many ideas, it feels like it gets overly complicated overly quickly. That's what I feel about Dynasty. It's not a hard learning curve. It's like you get buried into all the potential or the ideas.
Well, and it depends on, so for me, it was the opposite where like I came in cold and was so bad. Because I didn't have all of the information that if Rick is here in the live stream with you or on Twitter, like you're getting a ton of information. Like when I first started to play Dynasty, I wasn't on Twitter. I wasn't listening. Like I found DLF in a Google search, and it was before you had to pay for their rankings.
Oh, nice.
And I printed out their rankings and went to my rookie draft and promptly drafted Adrian Peterson and Drew Brees in the first and second round. And then Peterson was out that entire year. And and all of a sudden I was like, I
can't trade him.
I need to figure out what I am doing really fast. Yeah. And immediately started to listen to a whole bunch of podcasts. Well, I say a whole bunch. There were only about 5 or 6 at that point. But started listening to podcasts, get on Twitter, eventually got so immersed in it that we started our own podcast. And so I think it can go one of two ways. It's either a real steep learning curve or you're buried beneath a whole bunch of information.
It's one of the few things I actually prepared before jumping in. Usually I'll figure it out as I go along. But I actually because I didn't find out about Dynasty on Twitter, but it gave me the itch for it. Like I'm like, yeah, Dynasty would be cool, but because before you play Dynasty, you're like, I can't handle that kind of commitment. That's going to be so much work. And then all of a sudden you're in 18 leagues and you're like, this isn't enough. What's going on?
I need to draft more. Come on.
Yeah. Because at first you think it's just so much. So I sat on Twitter. I had a sub to RotoViz. I was talking, message boards are so great. Yep. If you take away the 20% of a-holes, Like, so many people just love answering your questions. Like, it was so cool to like just learn from people who honestly probably don't play anymore, probably were never a name in the first place. It's just dudes that were on the message board. And
It's a community. That's
yeah.
honestly why I'm still here. Otherwise, it probably would have cycled through a lot. Like I'm a hobby picker upper, and I get to a certain standard of good, and I'm like, okay, cool. And something else takes my interest. And this one, like you say, it's just I enjoy the people in it. Almost everything has a community around it these days. If you get interested in a hobby, you can find a community. But I particularly got along with the fantasy community, I guess. And I would say that to you, Rick, as well. Like, play it slow, plenty of time to learn. Like what I said about the rookie advice, all the rookie advice that's about to flow. Try to enjoy it, because I got so busy trying to figure out what I didn't know, because everyone had a head start, because I didn't even know American football existed till I came here. And that sometimes I forgot to enjoy literally the season or just interacting with people. The fact someone will just literally answer my random question, and that constantly was the truth and still is. And I still have questions and they still get answered. So yeah, have fun with it. Take it slow. It's not as complicated as it can sometimes feel. But yeah. I'm going off on a very simple statement that I really appreciated getting, so I'm going to move on. Matt, thank you for all the answers. I'm planning on taking Pitts in the second if he's there. If John Bosch heard you say that, he would literally have a heart attack, so that's good. We got to protect his health, because he's going to be there, frankly. Was just worried I'd be locked out of the QB if I ended up going wide receiver in the first.
Nope.
It's an interesting thing. The first round always feels like that to me. I still almost constantly draft wide receiver first overall, and sometimes it works better than others. And waiting for it to come back, that's kind of why we get addicted to drafts, as stupid as a snake draft is. But it's that, is that guy going to fall to me? And sometimes variance is your friend. Players that you're waiting to fall to you. I can vividly remember waiting to get cut. Christian Kirk in some of those earlier drafts, and he didn't fall to me, and that worked out pretty well at the time for a couple of years. He's having a good year this year, but
also assuming you're talking 12 team, just because that's like the basic.
Yeah,
there's going to be quarterbacks around in rounds 4 through 6.
I think that's always a good point to make, because I always forget it myself in rookie drafts. Like that first round pick, that second round pick is significantly more valuable, because you're going to get at least 2 or 3 quarterbacks, and that's first round players falling to you in the second. And yeah, it's a really good point. Startup drafts are even more exaggerated. Do you think the quarterback ADP is going to calm down this offseason? Because it was kind of off the charts this offseason, where everyone was like, oh, we're going to get Kyler Murray's every year, basically, because we just had Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert, and oh my God, Trey Lance.
It'll overcorrect the other way, because we haven't had great quarterback play, and everybody will be like, oh, quarterbacks are terrible. You can get, the same. And so I think will be pushed way down.
That's fair. And that's Rick. I'm assuming you've played fantasy before, by the way. So this is, it's a large part of Adam Hartstead's process. I know he compares what dynasty players are doing to redraft players. Still pay attention to the youth. But yeah, redraft players aren't dummies. In fact, most of them are a lot smarter than your average bear. So there's a football, and it can easily find you edges and get you there earlier, as the way Adam said it recently on Twitter. I think I was reading him at some point. I know today's just my time. I don't know what day it is. I've been sitting in the same small room. Mechanics' waiting rooms feel a lot like doctors' offices. I felt like I was in the 40s waiting for my child to be born. It was weird. I don't know what I read on Twitter or did on Twitter. It might have been yesterday, but I'm pretty sure it was today. He was talking about Mark Andrews, about how he directly compares ADPs, and how it's literally how he got there early. So if you're used to looking at redraft content, there's still value in that, and keeping track of it as well. Ronaldo or Messi? I am so out of date on that.
Pivot to Neymar.
I'm so out of date.
More value.
If that's a Ronaldo who was still popular last time I was aware, I'll take Messi.
Pele. That's a name I know.
Messi, in my opinion, is a whole different type of level of football player. Ronaldo's always been more flash than substance to me. But again, that might not be the Ronaldo you're talking about, because there's been a few I happen to know. And I'm really out of date on that particular game, Joe. I watch the World Cup. That's the only thing I can still get on regular TV over here. So I'll learn all the new players' names the next World Cup. Joe Herbert, I played my first Dynasty in 1995.
Oh, see, I was playing Dynasty baseball back then.
I think my first Dynasty was probably around 2015, 16.
Yeah, that's where I was. I was playing fantasy hockey back then. Does that count?
I was one of the 2014 wave. I started playing 2013 redraft, and by the time 2014, I was tired of finding really good players that turned up late in the season, and I was like, now I have to give them back, and you'll just draft them higher? This sucks. We should be able to keep players. And someone was like, you can do that. I was like, what? And hence, I found Flea Flicker. That was it. Johannes, I was wondering.
Hey.
I'm pretty upset. No, not really. Thanks for coming back, Johannes. Nice to see you.
I was a little upset.
Better?
We ran the table.
Well, no,
Yeah,
great.
and it's freaking midnight, so this guy's got to go to bed.
I was definitely noticing that we've been on too long slump that turns
I
up
definitely-
on
yes,
Russ's
I have
face.
gotten
At
lower.
some point, there's a Pete, shut up. He says, shut up. Distinct shut up, look.
Shut up.
No. Tim Shady, start 2, AJ Brown, Kirk, Mike Williams. I'm literally looking up someone else.
Is Antonio Brown playing this week?
Pretty sure.
Pretty sure that's the expectation, but again, where it's early.
Kirk's doing really well. Like, honestly, I love Mike Williams, but I mean, you start AB and Kirk.
Yeah. Especially
Antonio
after
Brown's
Godwin.
expected to play right now.
If AB is back, I think you start him, and yes, that's my answer.
Wow. Amon Ross St. Brown's projected as a top 11 wide receiver by 4 for 4, by the way.
Wowie.
Antonio Brown's 21st, AJ Brown's 27th, and ultimately Kirk wins. So, yeah, Kirk and Antonio, actually.
Yeah.
He wasn't an option. Why were you? Why?
Who?
Yeah,
AJ
the
Brown?
Brown
Were
thing.
you just making things up?
Kirk and AB. That's, yeah. Sorry, I was going AJB. I was getting really confused there. There's too many.
He's supposed to be back this week too.
It is past midnight. You guys are keeping me. No, Joannis is back. Don't listen to Russ. We like the fact that you're here. He's just.
We're just happy you're here.
Shopping last minute. Same here. That's why I was extra late, or just
That's what the
exactly
internet
on
is for.
time today. I had to take everyone shopping. I was like, it's a little late, guys. Yeah, you too, Joe. Appreciate it. Yeah, we've got that slump in Russ's tone of voice, face. I don't know what it is, but I can definitely sense it. It's really loud, offensively loud. Yeah. Any dynasty takes you want to go out on? Amon Ra, since he's a top 11 wide receiver this week, according to 4 for 4. What do you see his future in Dynasty? I think it might plummet this offseason, as everyone remember where he's drafted, and they'll make vacated targets arguments. And I think I might end up liking him more than some other people. I'm just wondering.
I think why can't he be a great wide receiver too? Because they're clearly
I don't
going
think
to
you do this just because of this. The situation makes it possible, but you have to be good to actually do it. And I think that
he's
might
good,
be
though.
missed. That's the thing, that he's done it. He did it.
Yeah. No, yeah, it depends. Like, if you have to pay what he's doing now prices,
Yeah,
like, he's
exactly.
not always
That's,
going to be this.
mhm.
That's the rough part. In which case, you wait 4 weeks and then go get him.
I agree.
Right. I think that they will end up adding a 1.
Yeah, Michael, I think it's killing everyone's fantasy, but you're at least not alone. Put it that way. Appreciate you sharing the sentiment, though. I've been COVID killed my teams. Actually, it was me. I did a terrible job this year, but yeah, you're not alone for sure. Zach, what was your Amon Ra St. Brown is a top 11 wide receiver take?
Yeah, perfect. That was it.
That's
He's great.
basically it.
No.
No, I think I'm definitely going to be interested in this offseason because I think it's going to fall a little bit.
It would have to for me to be interested in him because he is a good 2. He's a very good slot receiver, but they're going to put somebody on the other side, on the outside, as a 1, which means that he's not going to get 10 or 11 or 12 targets a game.
Well, yeah, but the 1 isn't always a fantasy 1.
No,
you like him slotty. I've heard you say it.
I do. I am in on Amon Ra St. Brown, but you're going to have to pay a lot right now to go get him.
Giannis is talking to Joe. I just thought we'd listen in for a second. Yeah, I just... there was a very long conversation on my timeline when I got back home that I was not a part of, but it went off on something I said, apparently, so I got to read it. I kind of always like spying on those things. And it was about Amon-Ra St. Brown, whether it was good or not good, or whether it's situation or not situation, or how much of it was the situation. And I just think if you're able to be good on the Giants, that probably says more about you than the fact the Giants haven't got anyone good. Like, it's difficult to be good for fantasy on the Giants. Lions.
Also the Lions.
Same thing, honestly.
It's just Kenny Galladay.
Fantasy level, same thing. So yeah, I think that might get slightly underrated. Like, running backs turn up and disappear because volume turns up, or the potential for volume turns up. Wide receivers a little more sticky. I insist. No one's objecting, so it really...
I mean, I'm with you, so there's nothing
full on straw manning right now. If someone could just
I mean, we're all saying the same thing. We're just smiling and nodding while you go.
I don't think everyone's going to be saying this, especially in this offseason. So I think he's an interesting dynasty wide receiver, but we'll have to see what happens. Someone else? I think Chase Claypool is another candidate for this offseason.
Anyone in the Steelers offense, just like if you can get him cheap enough, just in case they get a quarterback.
I've already got Juju.
So, but he's also not going to be on the Steelers next year, so it's fine.
Really? I mean, he had
he
the option
signed a one-year
this year,
deal,
and they didn't get better or worse.
He signed a 1-year deal, but it doesn't matter.
That's because
that's
the only. That seemed to be the only deal they give him, not because that's what he wanted to stay with.
He had a contract he turned down from the Chiefs.
Exactly,
because he's waiting for the money to come in from the TV deal this year. So that's why he signed a 1-year deal.
I mean, it's TikTok fame. That's true. I underrate that. I expect St. Brown and Pittman to regress next year. I don't think regression has a role to play here. It's not like they're overperforming volume. They're earning volume. I think we've seen Pittman's ceiling, just to remind Zach of that, because he really hates that. But yeah, I think he's proven himself good at the NFL level, which is definitely worth taking note of. It's not as easy to find upgrades at receiver as we sometimes... For some teams, they really seem to struggle at it, while other teams just kind of pile them up. Weirdly, the ones that, do research. Any concerns about Waller? I feel like trading for Hawkinson in the offseason. I think Hawkinson's a good target in this offseason. Yeah, for sure. I hope Juju gets a fresh start somewhere. I agree with Dynasty Outhouse, Russ Fisher at Dynasty Outhouse, and also Michael here that Juju could be somewhere else, and I feel like he can do better than he's been doing. But the problem, I felt like the problem wasn't the potential of a different team. So he don't want no other team. He wants to be in Pittsburgh. He likes the team. He wants to stay there. He's a very particular kind of young man, and he's not approaching his NFL career the way we might predictably expect. Like, I think he stayed with the Steelers because he honestly wants to stay there. So, and he can. Unless the team trades him. But we're talking about free agency and contracts, and I think he'll sign what the Steelers want to give him. Feels like. But I could be wrong. We're guessing about someone else's personal decisions about that. So, frick if I know. I avoided swearing again. You proud of me, Russ? See, every now and again, I'm a good boy. Anyway, I think all of those names are...
Let me go to sleep, Peter.
No. We're now going to break into a running backs don't matter conversation and how we draft in the... Okay. Yeah, we're going to get out of here because Russ actually has the power to kill people with his eyes. I've seen him do it. And I don't want to die tonight. In general, how would you hold on to rookies that aren't performing? Honestly... underperforming rookies in the first years of sells. I was a big fan of Diami Brown. We talked about him earlier. I now think the chances of him doing anything are much lower. It's adjustable by draft capital. The lower down you drafted, the less I expect. But pretty much after that first year, you should be making strong decisions.
But also remember, not
during that first year.
Aren't performing doesn't mean not doing Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase.
Yes.
600 yards and a few touchdowns is great.
Just as a random stat to look at, it doesn't have to be 600 yards, but Like, there's a clear, definable line. Tyler Boyd had 600 yards, and we dropped him in 10 rounds. Every now and again, we do something stupid like that, but mostly we drop the ADP of rookies appropriately. So yeah, make strong decisions after that first year. No problem, Michael. Thanks for coming. We don't actually get many Facebook comments, so I was actually pretty excited to see that. I appreciate you, man. We are going to get out here before Russ unleashes the death stare. Though, really appreciate everyone, and we still don't. I just realized we've been doing this all season, and I've got nothing outside of it. Look behind you. There's a